Welcome back, Martini Giant fans. This is episode number 112, which is the 1958 film Auntie Mame, directed by Morton de Costa, and of course starring the fabulous Rosalind Russell. We've talked about the fact that we've done 3 films of this that we were doing in a row, and the first one was Eric's pick, which was The King of Comedy. The second one was Tootsie, which was Daniel's pick, and this is the third film, which is my pick, which is Auntie Mame. Ironically, Daniel nor Eric neither of them have seen it. I'm the only one that's seen this film. I love this film, but it was really cool to share that. And we talk a lot about the history of filmmaking and how it fits into this whole thing. As you can tell from behind me, I am actually right here at the HPA Tech Retreat in Palm Springs. I decided to record this in front of the golf course. I don't know if this is going to work, but we'll see. It's a really great event. Lots of really high-tech stuff going on here. I enjoy it. I'm very happy to be here. Speaking of high-tech, I would like to apologize for the audio quality on this particular episode. A couple of mistakes were made. Didn't realize that the microphone that was recording my audio was actually my laptop microphone, not my proper microphone. So I don't sound really great. Eric, of course, sounds very echoey. We're actually making huge efforts to fix a lot of the sound issues we've had on Martini Giant, mainly because I experimented with a bunch of things. I know that CG Garage sounds perfect every time, but this one doesn't always sound so great. So anyway, we're fixing it, but the content is still really great, and I just didn't want to re-record a 3-hour episode with those guys because what's the point of that? All right. You'll still enjoy it, but just let you know, we're going to do some really great audio as we come along. And speaking of new episodes, we are going to be recording a new episode on February 25th at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and that one is going to be Avatar: The Way of Water, obviously something very current, and we're going to pair that with a 1973 animation that many people have no idea ever existed called Fantastic Planet. Is French animation featuring very large blue alien people. Oh, shocking. Anyway, I'm sure there's some inspiration between those two films, but we'd love to have that comparing. Very excited to talk about that. And that again is February 25th at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And if you'd like to see that, just go to twitch.tv/martini_giant. Again, that is twitch.tv/martini_giant. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Twitch if you'd like to see future recordings of our podcast. You can always just get them passively through the normal way that you get your podcast, but it's always great to be live because then you can live chat with us as we're actually doing the recordings, and those are always fun. Also a reminder that if you'd like to support us on Patreon, we would love to have your support. It is patreon.com/martinigiant. There's no underscore in there, just Martini Giant, all one word. Again, that is patreon.com/martinigiant. We'd love to have your support on Patreon. But for now, please enjoy Auntie Mame.
But let's get back to an era in America, which was here. I'd like, first of all, one thing, there was a couple things I was excited about this film. So first of all, we should just explain that there's several, we've decided to jump ahead because we're a little bit behind on our bank of podcasts, which basically means how many we have stored that are not published yet. And when that gets low, it gets a little sketchy in terms of making sure we can make our deadline.
Right.
So we were a little low, so we decided to do 3 in a week. So the one we did last Saturday was The King of New York. Again, film very relevant to the conversation we were just having. The next one we did after that was Tootsie, which was also good. Also
amazing, yeah.
Amazing film that we did on Monday. And today we are doing Auntie Mame. Now, the reason I picked Auntie Mame, Eric picked King of New York, Daniel picked Tootsie, and I picked Auntie Mame. Eric's not really a comedy, but Daniel's is definitely a comedy, and mine is definitely a comedy. And the reason I picked Auntie Mame is several reasons. Look, Eric kept talking about trading places.
Yeah.
And laughing about the scene with the snobby club scene. And I was like, oh, that's straight up ripped off from Auntie Mame.
Yeah. Oh, Muffy. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
I was like, oh, she's
isn't that just delicious? Right.
And so I said, it's like, oh, I love Auntie Mame. And so I had this fond memory of this movie from a while ago. And I've seen it many times. And so it was interesting to think about that. But I kind of loved it, and it was interesting to see it. And so it's been probably 20 years since I've seen it. But I do remember watching it a lot. My mom loved it. I think secretly my mom always wanted to be Auntie Mame.
My mom was slightly Auntie Mame.
Yeah. So I think she wanted to be the eccentric woman who pretty much had anything she wanted because she landed into money somehow.
Right.
Not lucky.
But it was interesting. So a couple things to me resonate about this film. There's definitely some things that felt very awkward in this film, specifically the Asian butler.
Oh yeah.
little dodgy there.
Yeah, it's a little wobbly for the time. Actually, I think it's actually, it's relatively progressive compared to similar gags in the same time period.
Yeah, they definitely. But at the same time, I thought like the speed and the acting is definitely a very different style that we've been doing for a while. We haven't done this kind of film for a while, but the acting was superb. She was fabulous. She was absolutely fabulous. And,
this is Rosalind Russell.
This is Rosalind Russell, and the woman who played Agnes Gooch was hilarious.
Yes. Yeah.
But the other characters were not necessarily as strong.
Well, I think it's if I can break into like, first of all, I guess, Eric, what's your overall on this movie?
In terms of just I felt it was a play.
It really feels like I was surprised to find that it was not a play first.
Reversed, yeah. It was the way the lighting was just at the end. Like they always had those scenes and cues where it was the isolated lights.
Yeah,
right.
That was very, very staged.
Well, they made it into a play very shortly after the movie came out with all the original cast from the movie.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, like it's an
went
easy
for 650 performances.
Right. I mean, the thing is, like, as Eric's describing, like, what Eric and tell me if I'm wrong, but like, there's a technique of dissolving out of a scene that a lot of movies from the 40s through the 50s used, which I love actually, is instead of just closing the aperture. You actually turn down the lights, and so and you can sort of segment this, so you dim out the furthest background, then the midground, and then and in this one they really point it out, like they're really trying to distinctly separate the characters and then have a final fade on them. You do see a lot in 40s movies they do this a little bit more smoothly. In fact, in Fincher's Mank, he does this a couple of times and it looks amazing. Like it's just that it's all on an electronic slide, so everything closes out to the last brightest point. It really looks nice, and they did pretty well in this. This is like they really, really hit hard though the stagey element of it. Like they want to create a stage, and there's also a central set of Auntie Mame's house, and because of her sort of flighty interests, the house is constantly redressed. So they have the same set, and it's redressed for every act, and that's an extreme play thing to do. So like,
and hydraulics
and hydraulics in the floor. But yeah, so like they're using all this Broadway technique right up front, and and so when Chris just told us this was a book first, which is kind of surprising in itself. It was then this film, and then it was Broadway. It's like, what? That's like literally the opposite of the way that I would have thought this had fallen out.
The other thing too, it's like I felt there was a lot of the way the beats were with the dialogue and the way the scenes were constructed. I felt like it was almost like they chose to do this film and they made this film. Obviously, Wes Anderson likes this film.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Totally. Down to the
big
font.
time.
Totally.
Big time.
But
big time.
The thing that got me, I felt like they, at the time, possibly were like, we need to compete with television, but on a grander scale.
Yeah.
So let's make the sets really big, give a kind of theatricality to it, like, the GE hour where there's plays, but we'll have color, but we'll have the same kind of cuts and intermissions and a theatrical presence to it that can compete with television, because at that time they were competing with television.
Oh, without doubt. And television was doing a lot of plays. Television.
That's right. Yeah. So but it had more. It had the color and I think it was filmed in Normotechni scope. Was it a Normotechni scope?
Techno Fiasco. Whatever it was.
Yes. And so, but I feel like it was really made to compete with television.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
So that is telling. Now, does it hold up like the GE Hour? It kind of felt like it doesn't hold up like the GE. Well, it does. It's the same thing. There's a lot of, but the fact that you can still sit through it after all these years says a lot about it. Mm-hmm. But the art direction's great. I love it's not in Savannah, but it's actually in Glendale look on the horse riding scene. And the sets, I love the sets. Yeah. I also felt like there was kind of a it was fun, and I'm sure it did really, really well. But there was something about it that it was a cross between. It wasn't like the Searchers, which came out that year. Right. Think about those films.
Very different.
Well, because that's the thing.
This is definitely on an older fashioned
Yeah, it's a strange combination. This movie, it's the
theater, a little bit of television.
But they have some pretty progressive subject matters.
The topics are through. So there's some shit in there that you can't say today.
Yeah,
I was really I was kind of like, whoa, shit, this is like
because I was in 58. 58 was not the time you could say stuff like that.
Well, yeah, because
in 1932 you got away with that.
There's a level of. I mean, I hate to. I think that because everyone is so self-conscious all the time from interacting with social media. There is a very, very isolating prudery that is going on, especially in film Twitter. And
prudery is a good way to put it.
Yeah, and it's it's just there's arguments galore about just you shouldn't have sex scenes. Sex scenes are it's just beneath us kind of attitude. I'm just the fuck are you?
What's wrong with sex?
That? Well, why are we suddenly making sex bad? That's weird. And
they say that very almost explicitly. It's
and the movie is actually I was this is a movie in the 50s that was probably seen as pretty daring for these a couple of bawdy sex jokes, a couple of ones that was what are they really doing this gag, this kind of thing.
Fish thing was a little crazy.
Yeah, exactly. There's a couple of big ones in there that I'm just you could not.
Fish thing was crazy.
Yeah, there's a couple of really almost Benny Hill dirty jokes.
But it was
movie.
Whoa. Yeah. When you sort of they all but finished a census of what they were actually doing, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, no shit, right? And and this is in a sort of a snappy, smart, intellectual comedy, right?
Yes.
And in no way would you do any of this today, at all, because it would be highly embarrassing for people to see it.
Yeah, and I would actually say for those who are listening to this. Go ahead in the background and play the trailer to this, with the sound off, just to get the feeling of what this looks like. Yeah, because it's very, I hate to say it, but it's a very sort of Doris Day musical kind of look to it.
Yeah.
In some ways,
right?
But with a richer stuff. There's no musical, by the way. It's all
right. I before I saw this up till last week, I thought this was a musical. So it feels very much like a 50s musical. And, but yeah, so I would say that this movie, I agree with everybody. I think overall I was I really enjoyed this, and I actually found it pretty in spots. I found it weirdly moving.
Oh, I was movie. I'm crying.
There's some really touching gags in this that I like quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And
her love for that boy is
it's terrific.
Comes through so well.
Yeah, especially
and not because it so easily could have gotten a little weird and creepy. Considering
she totally handles it. It's perfect.
Yeah,
and the thing is I would say the first half of the movie is better than the second half of the movie. Once they change out the boy actor, they lose that connection. And once he grows up, it sort of lost the connection for me. And the actor they fill him in with, it's have you seen The Birdcage, or La Cage aux Folles? Okay.
Which one?
The Birdcage in particular is the American one with which I really enjoy. It's a very very good movie.
It's a good movie. It's a different movie.
It's a different movie than La Cage aux Folles,
but it's just as good.
But it's very 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 funny.
It's very good.
And I really love the cast in in the American one is like it's some of the best American comedy,
except
like,
for
it's
the
just
two
incredible.
young kids.
Except for the fucking bitch kids, man. They suck. And like this movie suffers the same problem for me, where I'm just like,
absolutely
I
right.
fucking hate the son now. Like I hate him.
Yeah.
He's a racist jackass. Like
well, you're supposed to hate him.
But that's the mistake. It's like I don't feel sympathy for him or empathy for him. Like he's sort of like in a sort of a tough position. He's in love with a girl, but he's trying to make everybody happy. Like I'm just like he's just a dick. And he's treating Auntie Mame like a fucking asshole.
She says that to him.
Yeah, I know. It's just like it makes it very hard to come. Like it's okay if you can come back from it.
Yes, and you don't feel that he came back.
He doesn't come back. The actor, like no offense to the actor, he doesn't pull it off.
No,
like the boy in the first half, you feel like they are 100% connected, and then in the end, you're like, well, at least he's less of a douchebag. It doesn't really come all the way home, but yeah. So like overall, like I think it's a really interesting movie. I think it's a really interesting movie for both of the period it comes from, which like I wasn't alive at the point, so I can't say whether it was shocking or not. I can imagine it being relatively shocking.
Eric was a teenager.
Yeah, there you go. So right, and and like it's a pretty not raunchy, but it's a pretty challenging movie for its time period. And it's interesting that like I really feel I was very connected. Like I didn't like the back half quite as much, even though I loved Rosalind Russell the whole time. Like I loved her more and more as the movie went on. I thought she was terrific, and
her expressions.
Yeah, she's a real master
of her face as she reads the room and has this expression to deal with the specific, be it funny, be it emotional, be it.
Yeah, she is the reason to see this film. She is like she is a absolute showstopper.
You didn't like the boy as he got older.
I didn't like the boy. I didn't like the replacement.
I don't think I liked him either.
Yeah,
I did appreciate the story that was going on with the boy, even though the boy sucked at it, right?
Yeah,
but they had to have that confrontation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The story is good. The story works.
The class confrontation is what we're talking about. Really.
Right. And so what is I think
the Jim Backus guy, that wasn't Jim Backus.
No. But
it was a Jim Backus light.
Yeah,
who the father?
The dad, the girlfriend's dad.
The girlfriend's dad? Oh.
Yeah.
No. The southern...
Oh, the southern guy. Yeah, sorry. Yes.
Beauregard?
But yeah.
Yeah. Who was Jim Backus light. I was like, come on, give me Jim.
Yeah, you really want Backus for that. But he's still pretty good. He's not bad. Like, I think that
Beauregard.
They have...
That's your did they stereotype the South pretty hardcore.
Oh, dude. Well, let me... So, like, the...
Georgia, more specifically.
Yeah, like, I would say that the movie is... Before we get into the specifics of the story of the movie, like, it's a little wobbly. Like, it doesn't always pull off what it's doing. But for its time was very forward, which I really appreciate. And the thing that really stuck with me is like, holy shit, do I agree with Auntie Mame right now? Like in my own view of where we're at,
the world.
I love the world because before I say this,
life's a banquet.
Like this, I'm just like, this is going to sound like I'm complaining about, say, millennials or young people. I'm not. I'm complaining about everyone, like old people, people older than me, like everyone has become so reserved and conservative and self-defensive, and watch her argument for just like, grab life by the balls and fucking run with it. Like
first of all, she says the line they use is, "Life's a banquet, and most suckers are starving to death."
Yeah, most suckers are starving to death.
Which is basic. That's the carpe diem of the time. It was a huge line at the time. People were and originally in the book, as like said, most sons of bitches.
Yeah,
and so she was much more colorful.
Yeah,
like I said that in the play too. So
I'm much in agreement with this, and the more like we entered the again, like I don't think they pull off the second half as well as the first half. That's mainly a casting issue with the boy. Like the girl's parents are a little like there's an attraction to like over the top annoying comedy in the period.
They went too far, you think?
And they just went a little too far for me.
Yeah.
The it's like lots of
I think
kind of stuff. You're just like, oh, Jesus Christ, that's a lot. Russell still holds those scenes together and it still works. And the ending, like when it gets sort of like mechanical gags, I was like, well, this is now silly. This is more like,
well, it was a little bit
like the party rather than it is.
Yeah, Blake Edwards.
It's a more Blake Edwards thing. And that okay. So all that said, like I think that what was really interesting is, and we'll talk about the details of it, is like it. She is, like she's rich, loses all of her money, becomes rich again through marriage, and then is sort of like living a slightly lower version of being rich at the end of the movie. But she's always very progressive and open in her attitude towards life. Meanwhile, the bad guys in the movie in the last half are these nouveau riche sort of Connecticut types. And
they weren't necessarily nouveau riche.
Well, like they make up a lot of
conservative.
Yeah, like they're nouveau riche in that like they're like they spend a lot of time showing that they're like they're showing that like they're thinking things that are like they're really playing on how much sort of money they have and talking about it all the time to people, when really it doesn't seem like they have quite as much money as they're trying to project. Like they're showing off more than they have all the time.
But here's the deal: in that era, after the war, that was wealth.
Oh, for sure, yeah, right. And so like you have all these people that like the girl that Auntie Mame's nephew is attracted to or is going to marry or whatever. Like she's the one who's always talking like that, and she's a fucking radical casual racist. She's a terrible person. Super conservative, and she just blithely says all sorts of stupid bullshit, and she's so entitled it's radical, right?
Yeah, her character is so over the top, but at that point in the movie everything had already gone quite over the top.
So yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. Like she's actually, I think she's pretty good. I like her. She's pretty good, and her scenes with Russell are pretty great. But like I was like, this is the kind of fucking attitude that I run into constantly in film Twitter. Like that woman in that role captured this sort of like ignorant know-it-all, where I'm just like, what an incredibly abrasive kind of personality this is. And
I mean, I would agree with you in the sense that what she thinks is really special is really not special.
Oh, it's not special at all. Right. And she's like, she looks down her nose at everything that's like, remotely interesting, right? And then is like,
well, no, she sees it as threatening.
It's threatening, right? Yes. And she's like, and this like, I was just like, I think the actor is doing a very good job, and I was just like, this is a very, very common tone struck on film Twitter. Like this sort of like, I don't have to even consider your argument because you're out of the mainstream and you're beneath me. Is like it's all the time, and it's so difficult for me to keep patience with. So like I think that the ending of the movie, like it's a little wobbly in terms of its execution, but like it awoke in me some anger that was probably a bit reactionary. So it's like I was really pissed off at the end of the movie with which I should be, because the character is a unlikable slimeball. But like it made it sort of overbalanced the whole the movie as a whole, because the first half is very loving and caring and very rich feeling, and the second half is like, I hope a fucking bomb hits these people and only Auntie Mame survives. But it was an excellent movie and I really enjoyed it.
I want to say that Mike is here, and thanks for joining us. I know it's super late for you over in the UK, so
yeah, right on. Thanks, Mike,
being part of this. So let's go through a little bit what this all about. This is like I said, this is an old movie from 1958, based on a book by a guy named Patrick Dennis. The main character, the boy, he plays a boy who's also named Patrick Dennis, and it's based on an aunt that is a real life person aunt. I don't think her name was Mame. They're not named Dennis, but anyway, the story
semi-autobiographical work.
Semi-autobiographical work. Right. It is done very much, as we said, looks like a Broadway play. In fact, immediately turned into a Broadway play very well as a.
They just had to move the cameras off the stage and let the audience in. It was the same.
Yeah, and the same actors did the play as well, so they were very successful at it.
Right.
And very, very funny. in many ways. Very funny and also very sad, and it's got a lot of back and forth emotions. But it is very old school Hollywood. Don't expect this to be like The Godfather, right?
Well, in particular, it's very 50s Hollywood.
Very 50s Hollywood.
Yeah, super 50s. Super 50s. Incredibly progressive for the 50s. Shockingly progressive for the 50s.
Yes, 1958. But think of it, what Easy Rider was 63, so this is only 5 years later.
Easy Rider was 69.
No, 68, maybe a 10 years later.
Well, it's a pretty short, and like that. It's
Easy Rider is 1969, 70.
Well, it's still like, even if it's just a decade, like it's actually it's still shocking to me. And it's actually one of these things. I don't know, have you guys ever seen it's one of my favorite movies ever. It's called
Easy Rider was 69. You're right. So 11 years later. But I want to just put it this way, just for sake of argument. Think about we're 2023, so think about 2012. What kind of movies were making to 2012? There's no difference between the movies we're making in 2012 and the movies we're making
shitty
now.
superhero movies.
So the fact that they went from
that's a very astute.
Yeah, it's true.
That's.
Well, because we're caught in a loop right now.
We keep making the same shit for the last 25 years.
Like there's a slight change from the early 2000s to now.
Now I think from 2008 on is the same.
It's a very very slow.
I'm going to tell you where it stopped. 2001 after 9/11.
Yeah, we lock our business down pretty hardcore after that. It's very true.
Yeah.
But like it's like there's an incredible movie, if you guys haven't seen it, one of my very favorite films called Hiroshima Mon Amour.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable. It's one of the most beautiful, best movies ever made. It's unbelievable. The amazing part about this movie is that it is about a middle-aged French woman who falls in love with a Japanese man in Hiroshima in the 60s, right? And the early 60s. And in her youth, she fell in love with a German in occupied France during the war. And so it is cutting back and forth to 60s Japan, which is shot absolutely in modern fashion, handheld camera, utterly photorealistic. Everything looks modern. Like it looks, like it's slightly dated as compared to today, but it's not shockingly dated, right? It's not like you're talking like, it's not a big jump. And then her youth is 1940s France. And that is a big fucking jump. Like I was just like, how can these two time periods exist in one person's life? And she's not even old yet. Like it's really, really wild.
Yeah, because the world changed. We actually progressed a great deal. Between 1940 and 2000, such massive changes happened to humanity, growth, progress, and so many amazing things. And since 2001 to today, we haven't done shit.
Well, this is what I mean
as
to
a
say,
human
right? It's
race,
like,
in terms of progress. The internet came around, communication came around. There's a lot of technology that sort of did, but in terms of progression of concept and art has not progressed.
It's been very stagnant. Like film has been very, very, very stagnant.
Same with architecture. Same with a bunch of stuff. We have
same with writing. I read a lot, and like novels have there have been very good novels that have come out. I'm not saying a blanket statement. There's loads of great novels that have come out, but like the overall is extremely repetitive and very narrow, and very uninterested in trying to break new ground. And this has been, so if you look at like the difference between 1940s France and 1960s Japan in the same movie with the same character, that is 20 years, right? And now you look at 2003 to now, and you would mistake it for the same time period if you weren't really paying attention. Like it's just an absolutely there's been loads of great stuff made. People can argue that individual things all day long.
You think it all goes back to 9/11?
I definitely think it's 9/11.
Well, let's put it this way, okay? We're 2023, right? And we have to think of a movie that was done, like, I'm trying to compare like Easy Rider and Auntie Mame, right?
Yeah.
So 2012, Looper came out. That kind of movie could have come out today and you would never know.
Absolutely. Well, I would say that Looper by contrast is a much more it's a more interesting, daring movie than
what we
like you look at the same filmmakers' stuff. Like I just watched Glass Onion, and it's good. It's a perfectly good movie. It's like it's completely easy to swallow, very forgettable movie. There's nothing daring about it at all, and yet people
Yes, you're right. It isn't. There isn't.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's not. This is not to say it's not fun. It's super fun, but I'm just like this. This has no.
You know
fucking...
why? Because life's a banquet, and most people are starving to death, and they're not realizing the amazing things that are available to them. Right?
Well, I think that we have lost our taste for new things. I think that's
we are lost. Like, we want to offend and censor very quickly.
Well, yeah, this one, actually... like, even in the kindest way I can say it, just like, I think that, like, we have been trying to, since 2001, we've been trying very hard to remain safe, right? And safety ends with bed sores that kill you. Like, it's just a fucking terrible way to live life.
That's a way to put it.
And led by trying to cordon things off and make things very protected and make sure nobody is, like, all this stuff. Like, you end up with, lots of repressed rage and no change, and that's when things really snap. Like, it's like I can't but feel like we're really, I mean, it's like, here, I'm gonna dip my toes in the AI thing, right? Very briefly.
Very briefly.
Very briefly.
Need to get to the story.
Very, very briefly.
It's a long story.
the extreme anger that meets any broader discussion of AI is partially, to me, a buildup of a lot of long-term rage over other things for a couple of decades.
Oh, sure.
And like, there's just no way that.
Well, listen, I here's. Can I tell you what I think partially it is? I'll try to be brief, and we'll try.
Yeah, we're keeping it small. Keeping it small.
Okay. There are a lot of people out there who have spent a ton of money to go to trade schools, to be that were promised jobs as artists.
Yeah,
and they got those jobs to some extent.
Yeah,
but were never trained to actually figure out how to educate themselves on progress. They were only trained how to think for themselves, right? Yeah. And so what happened to those people, unfortunately, they spent several $100,000 on their bullshit education that they could have done on their own or could have progressed on their own.
Right.
And then now suddenly that entire investment into themselves is gone.
Yeah.
And so they're blaming the technology for what is affecting themselves.
Well, the thing is, like, that's the nature of big change, listen, right?
There is definitely valid arguments for
100%.
Definitely things that need to be discussed.
Yeah, 100%. And there's
when
people
they're
really
threatened that way, it's black and white.
Yeah, because I know I'm very close friends with people who have, like, their whole career is oil painting.
Apologize. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Their whole career is oil painting, and they've dedicated their life to this particular craft, and now they feel like they've been ripped off, and then their business is endangered. And like, I'm absolutely sympathetic to all of that. I think that's all totally legit to talk about, and how AI companies do business, et cetera, et cetera. But the rage is a different issue. Like, when you have a lot of pent up emotion over anything, it will look for whatever just to break out. And I think that what's weird with Auntie Mame is that Auntie Mame is very much making an argument. Like, the 50s are a very locked down period. Like, after World War II,
which they kind of address in the second.
This is what the movie's about.
Right? Movie is about.
This movie is very much about, because after World War II, and this is where the 9/11 connection comes in. We're going to loop it all back into one thing. So World War II was an absolutely devastating emotional shock on 1,000 different levels to literally everybody everywhere, right? And so it makes sense that after people come back from that experience, traumatizing experience, number one, they don't want to talk about it. Number two, they want everything to be the same as when they left, even more the same than it was. Like, they want it very rigid and unpredictable and very predictable, because they're tired of being fucking traumatized and afraid every single day. So it makes perfect sense to want to be safe after you've been through trauma, right?
Yep.
But the more you try to lock it down over the course of from 46 through the end of the 50s through Easy Rider, really, the more you lock it down, the more the pressure of everyday anger, stress, need for change, all this other stuff builds up in you, and then it breaks free and snaps. And sometimes it breaks free positive, sometimes it breaks free negative, but it's going to break no matter what happens. And Auntie Mame's argument is essentially let go and let the pressure loose.
Yeah.
Like, stop fucking tightening your, groin in a vice. Like, this is going to kill you. And be free. And sometimes being free is dangerous. Her fucking husband falls off a mountain.
I also think, like, that time, because if you think about it, before World War One, a majority of Americans were isolationists. They just wanted to be by themselves. They were anti-war.
Yep.
They were dragged in to World War One thanks to the British, and then they went through that. Then all of a sudden, they were given the responsibility for helping England because their economy took a huge hit in World War One. So all of a sudden, America now has power. They have money. And then World War II comes along. And by the end of that, America I always felt they had trouble adjusting to power.
Oh, for sure. Because,
right?
Because we were revolutionaries to start with, and now we're an empire.
Yeah, and it's like, it's a way of adjusting to power. It's not a guilt. It's just like, we're kind of new at this thing, and we kind of wanted to be by ourselves, but now all of a sudden, England owes us money,
it's weird.
So we were a massive war machine.
For sure.
And then we get into Vietnam because there's just this, I guess this is what we do.
This is what we do.
We never figured out. We didn't quite know how to be imperialist. Anyway, let's get into
But the Auntie Mame is about that thing. It's about, like, we are fucking pent up and we better explode before we kill somebody.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the background of that movie. And so it uses a really interesting combination of very staid, very stagey, very proper, well-lit 50s bullshit and weird jokes that really upset people.
Because Broadway was huge at that time.
But this is what I'm saying. It's like,
with that Broadway,
but like you compare, that's what I'm saying. Is like you compare this to a Doris Day movie. Like Doris Day movies endorse the clamping down. They're like, stay in the closet, Rock Hudson. That's the basic argument of a Doris Day movie, right?
This one.
Not this one. This one's just like the subtext of the movie, just like she's all but looking at the camera going, everybody in front of the camera is gay, right? She's almost saying that all the time,
right?
And it's just like, this is like, it's such a big argument to let go and be yourself and embrace craziness, and life, that I think that it's like, it uses its 50s style and its stagey nature very, very well. I think that's one of the best things it does.
All right, so it starts off with the reading of a will. That's the start of the movie. Besides the title sequence, Eric, what do you think of the title sequence?
I liked it.
Oh yeah, it's great. It's kaleidoscope. It
was a total kaleidoscope effect. Loved it.
Yeah, super fun.
Super fun. So it starts off with the reading of a will.
I'd like to just point something out, Chris. I'm sorry to interrupt you on your show.
It's your show too, buddy.
Show.
Dan and Chris, were the names not in the entry?
Straight out of Eric fantasy movie?
Yes.
And I mean, in terms of the character names or the actors' names?
The actual producers' names and everything. Yeah, it's hysterical, dude. Yeah, that
was it like dead on? I was like, man, this is out of my playbook.
Yeah, it was so funny. It was like, it's the
famous people you've never heard of.
Yeah, like all these big names being scrawled across the screen, and you can see Coral Brown. Like, who the fuck
Tucker.
is this? Forrest Tucker.
Patrick Knowles.
DaCosta presents.
That's right.
Peggy Cass, who was great.
Yeah. Oh man, like this is there's some real characters in this.
So this was all stage
Willard
actors.
Waterman.
Yeah.
That's a very Eric Sheely name. Willard Waterman.
The woman I loved the best, by the way, in this, outside of Auntie Mame, was Lee Patrick. I thought Lee Patrick as no, not Lee Patrick. I was looking at the wrong cast list here.
It was the girl that fell in love with the boy as he got older. Her Mame's best friend, she's on stage.
Carol Brown.
Carol Brown and Rosalind Russell are so good together in this movie.
Yeah.
That I was just like,
well, they're best friends, and it totally shows.
It's so fucking they're it's almost a flaw in the movie, because when they're not together on screen, the movie goes, all right, like this. You're just like, come back, Carol Brown.
Yeah, because Carol Brown's a perfect sidekick to me. Right?
Oh, she's amazing, absolutely amazing.
So the reading of the will. Sorry, it's still the opening shot. The reading of the will basically shows that it's a man who's talking about, when he dies, the care of his son will go to Mame Dennis, and Mame is his sister. And do a little point in the thing is like, as long as he doesn't grow up to be, as crazy as she is, and blah, 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 blah. And so then he also says that the finances of his finances will be taken care of by Dwayne Babcock of the Knickerbocker Bank, right, who will be managing him and taking care of all other things. So basically, he assigned two people: one, his aunt, who's the only living relative that he has left, right, and this other guy named Dwight Babcock. So the next scene is basically that he says, "But I'm in good health, so this never matter," and then he dies the next day. That's basically in the headline of the newspaper, which is hilarious. Right?
He's like, "I'll be alive forever," and then it's like the next day, heart attack.
Right.
That's
he has a heart attack because in the health club that he claims he's so healthy about, which was pretty funny and ridiculously ironic. And so anyway, so then basically this young boy is with a maid / nanny that she's going to take him to Mame Dennis's house. And they're a little bit nervous because, obviously, he has to be with his aunt now and he's trying to figure it out. And the nanny the woman is very, is a strong woman, but also very sweet with him, trying to take care of him. But they arrive at Mame's house and it's got this massive Chinese dragon head on the front door of the house. And it's like, what the hell is this? Like the whole door looks like basically a Chinese dragon. And so there's like, okay, and I guess they ring the doorbell and then smoke comes out of the nostrils of the dragon and they're all freaking out. Big gong sound, right? Very ridiculous. And then the door or the eyes of the dragon open and it's the two eyes of a person is looking on the other side, and that freaks them out, of course. And they can hear a whole bunch of ruckus going on the other side. Open the door, and this Asian man opens the door and says, "We're here to see Mame." And it's like, "Oh, you come in. It's very, very, broken Asian.
Yeah, it's sticky. It's sticky. Like it's going to be uncomfortably sticky for a lot of people. I think that the movie has its heart in the right place ultimately, but it was common in the time to do this as an act.
Accent.
Yeah.
And the laugh made everyone feel very. Karen and Brady felt very awkward at his laugh.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strain. It's not nearly as bad as, say, Breakfast at Tiffany's, which is racist.
Really? I haven't watched it in years.
Oh man, Mickey Rooney. That's
Mickey Rooney.
That's a hard ride.
Chinese man.
Yeah, that's bad news. But like that being said, like this is like, if you take it with a grain of salt and you're like, wow, this is just this is where they're at. Then you can write it. It's still a good-hearted character that is part of the family of the movie, and like they treat him well.
But they basically walk into a massive cocktail party. Tons of people, lots of stuff going on. Oh, by the way, you should know this is early 20s. This is supposed to be, right? So Prohibition time, craziness, but there's a massive cocktail party and they're all drinking like fish.
Right.
And they've run into Mame, who is talking 1,000,000 miles an hour. She is a fast-talking socialite.
Yeah, and the camera's just riding this massive wonder as she's like going all around the cocktail party and just
introducing people and talking to people, and it's basically like a complete, shocking to Patrick, the young boy, who's just sort of being moved around this entire space and introduced to everyone. And she is so excited to see him. He's like, "Oh, you're here," etc. It's like, "No, you're supposed to arrive tomorrow." "Oh, it's today." "Ah, great." And she doesn't seem to care and is just excited to talk to him and introduce him to everyone. Right. And he is just sort of like kind of trying to take it all in and is completely confused. And she keeps telling him like, "Oh, we're gonna teach you all kinds of amazing things. Look at this guy. He's a very progressive teacher who teaches in the village. Maybe you'll go to school over at his school," which is hilarious as well. We'll get to that point.
Yep.
And then he gets confused by all these different words. Like there's a lot of things that he's hearing at the party that are confusing to him. Right. Yeah. And so he says, "Well, take this notepad and paper and write all the words down that you've never heard of. You need explanation. And either they will go through all of them." And he goes through all of these different words, like
it's like all these exactly, Lysistrata, all this stuff. You're just like, that's a tough one to explain, but okay, let's do this.
I still think that school is so bizarre.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's utterly ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's made to be ridiculous.
So anyway, they ended up, they're there, and the party's over very quickly. But of course, her best friend, who is an actress, they literally drag. She's passed out, and so they're carrying her upstairs. There's this big spiral staircase that's used, spiral staircase in the entryway, which they use in the film a lot. They're taking her upstairs to put her into bed, and they said, "Yeah, we'll unzip her and everything else," which also was fairly progressive at the time. Just talk about like passing out all the time.
Oh yeah. Lots of very, very risque material being traded around this thing,
and how they're going to undress her and put her to bed.
Right.
And so, anyway, as a young boy, he's learning from Auntie Mame, and then they find out that Dwight Babcock is going to be coming over, and Mame's like, "Oh, I've been putting him off for so long, but I better get things straight." And she's hung over in bed, right? And so Patrick says, like, "No, I'm going to, I'll take care of it, or I'll help you."
Well, and specifically, the boy tells the story of the only real dialogue he had with his father growing up was he tried to talk to him a little bit in the morning, but the dad would say, "Go away, I'm hungover," right? And then Auntie Mame, with the first thing she says when she wakes up to the boy, is just like, "Well, just slow down, I'm hungover," and you can see him, he's just like, "Oh no." Like this is going to be.
But she engages with him.
But after that, it climbs. Their relationship grows after that point. It just starts off with to show his fear that he will be essentially alone.
Right. But he had made an airplane, and she's like, "I was always interested in aviation. I never knew they worked on rubber bands."
Right. They worked on rubber bands. That's a good line.
There's a lot of great one-liners.
Yeah, she's just like, there's like one or two every 20 seconds that fly out of Rosalind's mouth. It's pretty hysterical.
So anyway, Dwight Babcock arrives, and she's not ready yet. They're trying to get the actress out of the house. She's passed out, right? And she needs to dress up very conservatively because she needs to impress or try not to freak out Dwight Babcock, right?
Right.
And so while she's doing that, the young boy is entertaining the guy and decides to make him a martini.
Just goes through the steps.
He's very good with it.
And he says your favorite line, which is don't make sure you don't bruise the chin.
Right. Don't bruise the chin. But he makes him a really nice martini, and the guy's a little freaked out by that, and he gives him the martini. At which point, Rosalind Russell Mame shows up, and she's a little. She's like, "Uh-oh."
Oh, fuck. Yeah.
And then she turns it around and is like, "Why? How dare you? You shouldn't be drinking a martini during working hours."
Well, because it's a great little setup because like the guy's clearly gonna be like the guy's basically saying, "Why does this little boy know how to make a martini?" And she's like, "Why are you drinking a martini starting from a little boy at 10 a.m.?"
Right, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a good gag.
And then but anyways, he
but that guy is essentially there to make sure that he goes to a good school, right? Conservative school, and he has a lot of recommendations for the most buttoned down. And the word that comes up a lot is restricted.
Yeah.
And for people that don't know what restricted means in this context, that means
Not Jewish.
no Jews. That's the idea. Restricted means that it's racist rules against accepting Jews. And
black was with question.
Oh, that's you don't even talk about that, obviously.
Yes.
But there's so many people that just accept just having Jews live next door, and it's very shocking to people because they're racists. And as this becomes a subtle through line that leads to a crescendo in the picture.
Yes, it does. But basically, had all these things that he should be doing in terms of his education.
Right.
So then she says to him, I tell you what, you engage him into whatever school you think he needs to be in, and we'll be there. And he says, fine, I'll be like that, right? Because she suggests all kinds of schools like, whoa, way too crazy. No, we're not.
Too liberal,
too crazy, too progressive.
Right,
yeah.
right.
No, we need a very, my alma mater, great for him, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So anyway, after that part, she does not put him into the school that he suggests, but puts him into another school. So as he goes to visit the school, he finds out that he wasn't even enrolled.
It's the weird spiritual art school.
Yeah, he put him into this other school that was in a village, run by this other guy,
experimental yogi character.
And he goes to see him at that school, and he shows up at her house, and the boy is in a coat, but you can tell that he doesn't have any clothes underneath.
Right,
which is very odd.
Yeah, which is already weird.
Right?
Yeah.
And he was complaining to Mame, and he's like, I showed up at this school, and everyone at the school was naked.
Right, teachers naked, kids are naked.
Everyone's
and then
naked.
Why don't you tell me what you did at school today? And he tells this whole weird tale about we played this game where
all the girls were hunched over, like we were learning about fish, and all the girls were hunched over, spawning their eggs on the ground. And then the men came by to do what
gentlemen
fish do.
Dude. I was
like,
whoa.
What? And this is in the movie in 1958. I'm like, oh.
So it's pretty bananas. Now, to give this context, they are it's a very silly, bizarro movie, and they're basically trying to go with the most. I mean, the shit like that actually was real in the 60s. All just their experimental wackos shit like that, and so
50s, though. This is the
50s.
This is these concepts were absolutely around in the 50s, late 50s.
Well, the beatniks and stuff were doing.
Yeah, exactly. So this is pseudo real. The reason why they're bringing it up is to make sure that you are as shocked by what Mame represents as anybody else. So you're less is this boy in danger? Essentially, is the emotion they're trying to elicit, and it's done in a comedy sense. So the kid's not actually none of this is meant to be taken literally, really.
Sure.
This is just extremist comedy. But at the same time, this is not a joke you would make today.
Yeah.
In any context, at zero context.
Because these are clearly young boys.
Right. Yeah. And so
way under 18.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, there's nothing.
But the thing happens so quickly. The joke happens wait, what?
Yeah,
what?
You're like, what the fuck was that? That was.
And then she's like, well, that's just just learning about nature. Of course, they're learning about nature.
Right. Exactly.
And she totally brushes it off, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, and so it's I think that there's no way you could argue putting that joke in today because people take this stuff too. They would very, very literally.
And they would say, child abuse.
Yeah, whereas this is much more. This is close to Zoolander level reality that we're living in for Auntie Mame. It's very, very, it's cartoony.
You would never do this joke,
right? Oh yeah, it wouldn't even you'd be off the movie. That's the end of that. But it does show the sort of I'm not arguing to keep a joke like that or not, but I am saying that the literalism with which we view film is pretty severe these days. We take these things to be real when it's not real. The base argument should always be what you're watching is a metaphor always. And the more you expect it to be real, the less it's going to make sense to you. But we don't really live there anymore. Now we look for hyper real, like very, very close adherence to reality, even in the most ridiculous humor.
Right.
Which is why we get quickly offended by a lot of humor.
Yes.
Which is why, like, for instance, people they have to put a warning on the front end of Blazing Saddles.
They do now?
Yeah, they put up, and when I'm just like, Blazing Saddles is one of the most anti-racist films I've ever seen.
Yes.
Like, the entire fucking point of the movie, the star of the movie is Cleavon Little, and the entire point is anti-racist, but still we have to put up a warning. I'm just like, this is where we're at. Like, it's not what you're saying, it's how you're saying it. And if you say it wrong, it doesn't matter what you mean. Yep. And that's a very dangerous way to think, I think.
Yep. Okay, so where were we? So he basically forces him to leave the school and go to a different school, to the school that he was with. So not only that, but forces him to go to a boarding school where she won't see him during most of the time, and then she will only see him during holidays and summertime.
Right.
Which is pretty upsetting, right? So, but nonetheless, that's what happens. The next point that happens after that is that since it's the 20s, the crash happens. 1929, the crash happens, and they're like, she along with all the other eccentric New Yorkers at that time lost all their money.
And actually, this is my favorite line from the Butler character, is when he picks up the phone and says hello, and you hear blah 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 blah, and he goes, "Oh, it's Mr. So and So from the bank. He just wanted to say hello before he jumps out a window."
That was good.
Yeah, they sort of treat it in a pretty funny way.
Yeah, exactly.
So he lost all his money. So she loses all the money now, which is interesting. So because of that, they sort of play up like she needs to find a way to make money. She keeps the apartment, she keeps the clothes, right? So it's very what's the Schitt's Creek in a sense.
Yeah, it's very Schitt's Creek, exactly.
Right, but she needs to find a job, right? And so she's looking through the help wanted ads, and she starts trying to look for some jobs, which are pretty fun. So the first job she tries to do is a receptionist.
Telephone operator.
A telephone operator, where you put the little plugs in, like, and she's working at a bank, and of course it's the not bank, a lawyer's office, and the names are blah 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 blah. It's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, and so like a couple of sticky bits with her.
Trying to get a job.
But over the course of this, she ends up meeting this guy.
Well, she ends up working at Macy's, and she's of course terrible as a sales clerk at Macy's. But there's a guy who shows up with a very thick Georgia accent.
Yeah,
His name Beauregard, right? And who wants to buy 25 sets of roller skates?
It really should be Jim Backus. I agree with you, Eric. Like, this dude should be Jim Backus 100%.
I watched this, and I hadn't seen it before, and obviously, I watched this, and that scene where he was talking about, sorry about my dog in the background.
That's it.
Like, I'm an oil cat. And I was like, oh my God, this is where it came from. Sorry, I'm talking slow. If you go all the way back to the late 70s, when I was a kid, my father used to wake me up at 11:29, and we would watch Saturday Night Live together from the very first time it aired straight through, right? So all the skits, and there was a skit with Belushi that was at like 12:50 in the morning, meaning it was one of the last scripts.
They're just trying to kick it out the door, right? Yeah.
Right before they did a musical number, and then they were out. So it was like 12:45, and he plays his Texas Oil Man coming in and Sweep Your Heart of Gilda Radner, and I was like, "Where's this coming from?" It was so strange and bizarre. It was like King of Comedy, but it was based on that.
That's funny. That's funny.
But it's like I totally forgot about it. I was like, "This is the oddest thing." It wasn't like Land Shark or any of the other premieres.
What the fuck is this? Yeah,
this was like the last the sketch, and it was like, I'm a billionaire, with the money, and I want to take you away from all your problems.
Yeah, I mean, it's so Foghorn Leghorn, it's like it's a little ridiculous. It's a big. But incidentally, I need to drop this. I need to put this out there at some point. My favorite Foghorn Leghorn joke. If you ever hear me say this, this is what the reference is. There's an episode. There's a cartoon Foghorn Leghorn, giant chicken, right? and he's gobbling sorely high while he's talking like this all the time, boys. You know, it's the Kentucky accent, and he is there's one where he is sort of has to take care of like this little his nephew, and his nephew is wearing glasses, and he's a really smart little chicken, right? And he gets into more and more fights with the kid, and he tries to hide from the kid in the corn bin, right? And he's hiding in the corn bin. He's like, you see him peeking out like this, and you see the kid with the glasses, the chicken with the glasses, sort of looks around, can't find Foghorn Leghorn, starts drawing on a piece of paper with a graph and a slide rule, and makes lots of little numbers, and he looks all around and does all this math, puts the thing aside, takes out a shovel, sticks it at the ground, goes like this, and suddenly Foghorn Leghorn just comes up out of the earth, even though he was just in the corn bin. And he just looks around, and he runs over to the corn bin. He almost opens it up, and he goes, "No, I don't want to look. I just might be in there." And so I have said this my whole life. Nobody knows what the fuck I'm talking about. And now when you hear me say it during any episode upcoming, you'll go, that was when he explained that Foghorn Leghorn joke too long. That's this moment right now.
Okay. All right.
Yes, Egghead. Thank you. Jason knows what I was talking about. Thank God.
Okay,
I don't want to look how much might be in there. That's who this guy reminded me of in this movie.
It definitely was, but it was a Jim Backus light. I wonder if these were all just stage actors at the time.
Yeah, he's this because you know who he is also like. He's also Ralph Bellamy in the Cary Grant newspaper movie. Like what's it called? The great one, the really funny Cary Grant newspaper movie.
Don't Forget Me.
Don't Forget Me, Eileen. Yeah, that's the one. It's the fast talk. It's the classic. I think it might be Rosalind Russell. Come to think of it. Is the front page? His Girl Friday. His Girl Friday. His partner, who might be Rosalind Russell, I might be wrong about that, is going to marry Ralph Bellamy. And Ralph Bellamy is such a fucking boring stooge in that movie. It almost kills the movie. Where you're just like, ugh. Everybody else is so funny, and then there's this guy. So that's what this dude kind of reminded me. He's okay, but I kept on thinking of better actors. Backus being the front of the pack, that would play this shtick a little bit harder. Yeah, exactly.
So basically what happens is he says he wants to buy a whole bunch of things. She keeps missing up the order. And she ends up getting fired. She just walks out of the store at that point. He's like, well, I guess that's the end of that. And she's also basically saying she doesn't really have any money, right? You can sort of does this thing. She's going to try to take a cab, and she just has one coin left in her purse. And instead of taking the cab, she puts it in Salvation Army thing. Of course, a very, Hollywood thing. Be generous.
Well, it's a little save the cat moment for her.
Save the cat moment.
Right.
Sure.
That's good.
Sure. But then she ends up going home. And when she gets home, obviously they're very poor, although you can't really tell from the amazing decor of the house. And she still has the maid and the butler that are working for them. Of course,
yeah.
Right. But she makes a point of like, I'm so sorry, I owe you guys so much back money. And they're like, no. And they're very loyal to her. They all love her very much, which feels very genuine, actually, between it. And so they decide they're going to exchange Christmas gifts for each other. And, oh, right. Wait. There was a scene that was important to this before that. She had a job as an actress.
Oh, yes. With her friend.
So her friend gives her a job as an actress, and she's supposed to be a very, very minor part, but because it's Auntie Mame, she just tries to turn it into a bigger part.
Yeah.
And she has these ridiculous bracelets,
jangly metal bracelets
that have like literally bells on them.
Yeah, they sound like wind. It's like wind chimes.
And so she's completely distracting, destroys the play at the end because she's always saying she gets her jangly bracelets caught in like her friend's hair. Everyone's upset. She ruined the play.
Right.
And then and she's like, oh, I'm a failure. And there's a great scene of her. Like, it's very hilarious and vaudevillian and ridiculous, the whole thing. But at the end, when they're all upset at her and they leave her with like just that one stage light bulb and a chair and her feeling defeated.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful little scene.
It's a beautiful little scene.
It's great,
right?
great little scene.
And then Patrick shows up and is very genuine and says, "You were wonderful. Yeah. You were wonderful." And he says, "I was terrible." And he goes, "No, it was a terrible play until you showed up and made it so much more interesting."
Right. And the thing is, I wouldn't even say that the little boy is great. I think he's a typical 50s little boy actor,
Right.
He's actually also in Anne watched it this morning, and she looked him up. And he was also in one of the best Twilight Zone episodes ever, which is The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. So the kid was like in the rotation and he happened to catch this role, but he's not like a standout. It's all Russell. Like Russell owns these moments so thoroughly and sells them so well that you're just like, you can't help but be a little bit, your heartstrings get tugged every single time. The boy's doing a perfectly fine job. But she is like...
He's delivering the lines that allows her to do...
Yeah, exactly. He's serving it up perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it.
It's good set, but beautiful.
She is fucking... she is the Babe Ruth of delivering the goods in those sequences. It's really
wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
But anyway, just to put that point, like they all give each other gifts, and it's always like, he went to the pawn shop and sold his microscope and his hockey stick to buy her a piece of jewelry, which was not real diamonds, but it's like, but look, they don't make any noise, so you won't have to worry about it. So it was just sort of a callback to that, and how much he loves her. Right. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yep.
And then they all gave each other gifts, and then the butler and the maid said, "We also got something special for you." We saved up a bunch of money, and we wanted to do that. And he says, "We paid all of your bills for you, all of your grocery bills, so that we won't get strange looks from the butcher anymore."
Right.
And it was, it was like, oh my God, it's just a little.
Oh, it's great. It's very sort of
heavy, but very.
Yeah, I mean, it's big corny stuff, but I love big corny stuff, and when you do it right, it's like, it's like Jimmy Stewart Christmas.
It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah.
It's a Wonderful Life kind of flavor, It's
really very, very, very sweet. And then suddenly the door rings, and who is it? But Beauregard, and he's been looking through the phone book for all the dentists. He says, "There's 96 dentists in New York, and I've been going around in a cab."
Yeah, that's like,
what?
That's
I
crazy.
Would change your life, and I got tons of money. I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, he's like this character. The guy's fine playing Beauregard. It's just like the character needs.
It's so obvious.
More.
You already know it's going to happen. It's like she's going to marry a rich Texas oil man from Georgia.
Optimism.
Yeah,
come on in.
Yeah, it's like the problem with this guy's casting is that like he's trying to play it as the romance lead, and so he's trying to sell it like it's sort of a real guy. And I'm just like, you got to do this guy fucking full on Bacchus. Like you got to come in and make it a cartoon in order for the story to.
Oh, your audio cut out.
Oh, God damn.
No, it's back. It's back.
Still back? All right.
Yeah.
So like, because what happens in the plot for him is sort of like, well, I was sort of trying to take it as like an actual romance, but that's not really what's happening here. So it's the wrong sell. Like he's just coming in and being like, "Well, I'm in love with you, a little girl," and blah 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 blah.
I don't know what to do, and I've been searching all over the city.
I'm just like, you got to be.
I got so much.
You got to be a little bit more hammy than that.
There's a couple of moments where she's the only one that really sells it. Like he's like, head over heels in love with you. It's a little ridiculous, but she's the one. She's like, she has an expression on her face like, "I'm very much in love with him," but it's. You can't really be because he's a cartoon, right? Like, but at the same time, just based on her expression, she looks genuine. Like she's so good at this. It's really amazing.
This is what I'm saying is that like if she plays it the same way, but he's kind of like because he's definitely overplaying. He is Foghorn Leghorn, but it's just like he's just selling me the wrong meal. In the scenes, like he should be telegraphing what happens to him. So I don't try to like half-assed invest in that story because it's not going to go anywhere. But it's okay. It's all right. I think it's one of the elements. It's like they got a great actress and a pretty good screenplay, and it's very, very big, and it's trying to cover a lot of bases, and she's almost able to cover it all herself. But sometimes
she's covering a lot.
Yeah, she's doing an incredible amount of work, and the movie really holds together because of her. But now and again, it shows the seams just because you're like, I wish they had one other actor in here as good as her. Then it would just explode. But it's very, very difficult to get someone that good.
But she held the whole thing.
Like, yeah, I would say, she totally holds it. She absolutely holds it. And like, I would say the other actor who's as good as her is the one who plays her acting friend. Like, those guys shine so hard whenever they're on screen together that I was just like, I just want to see them as a duo through the entire movie.
Yeah, old Thelma and Louise.
Yeah, totally, dude. Because like, and you can tell when the director has more confidence when he's working with the two of them, because he stages these really complex bits of blocking to follow their arguments, right? And
especially
everyone,
when they're trying to get dressed in the hair.
when they're trying to get dressed and the hair and all that gag. I mean, just like all that stuff, you can only give that to real pros who know how to land the lines on top of each other right on the point.
But it's not just like the way she throws around the room and just talking a million miles an hour.
Yeah, that's really hard.
Unbelievable.
But that's stage stuff.
Yeah, these are really incredibly skilled actors. Yeah, like,
so skilled, right?
You know, and this is something you don't see today.
Skilled.
Like you get a lot, like you get great actors today, but they're all like they've only ever worked in film, so they can do close-up work and they can do intimate work very well. But when it comes to like big blocking and really controlling a big space, like there's 2 or 3 actors that are that good in movies. Very, very rare. And so then, like, and the way it works in movies now is like the camera has to make up for the fact that actors stagecraft very well, and the camera has to really help them out all the time. You know, back in the day, you had people like Russell that could just fucking.
Your audio keeps going out, and I have a feeling your mic is too close to you, or maybe it's now it's out completely. Nope, it's not working. Yeah, it keeps going in and out.
Did we lose Dan?
Now we've completely lost Dan. Dan was very passionate about this movie. Dan is now been muted. I think Twitch has said, you know what? Let's hear from Eric. Eric, let's talk about your impression of me.
I back up a lot what he says, but honestly, it was a very theater piece for me, and I'm actually kind of shocked that it was a film before, or maybe they wrote it for stage, and they kind of composed it like a stage piece, knowing that they were going to go straight to stage. But everything about it was that way. I was kind of shocked, like, there weren't more big name actors in it.
I don't know if can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I just looked it up. His Girl Friday with Cary Grant. It is Rosalind Russell that is also in that. And if you want to see a fucking hilarious movie and what we're talking about in terms of really fast talking and great staging, see His Girl Friday. Holy shit, she's good. Unbelievably good.
But also, what year is that?
His Girl Friday is 1940.
Okay. 1940. Okay,
yeah.
So
there's basically 2 movies that are identical. One is, I think, The Front Page, and one is His Girl Friday. His Girl Friday is my favorite.
Now, what's the other one with Tony Curtis that's really good? 59?
Oh,
The one with what's his name? There's a real
Burt Lancaster.
Burt Lancaster. It's almost like a noir. It's like a New York noir version of advertising, right?
Yes.
Yeah, what is that called? That's a fucking great movie.
One-time director.
Really?
Well, he did, and then he taught at Cal Arts.
Oh my god, that's what is that? Hang on for 1 second. Advertising.
You think you're a big cookie? Well, I can chew you up.
Holy shit! Wait, if you can think of the name of the movie, everyone should see this movie. I only just saw that like 3 or 4 years ago.
I was thinking. You know what I was thinking of?
The director I worked for, when I worked for the director for Sky Captain, his teacher was that director.
It is. Oh, here it is. Sweet Smell of Success.
That's right.
That is a fast-talking, amazing drama.
Movie.
Wow,
yep.
What a movie! Wow.
Do you guys remember State of the Union?
No, I haven't seen that.
State of the Union with Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy.
Oh really no, I don't think I've seen that. I like those guys. Yeah, that's good.
Frank Capra directed it.
Nice. I like Capra.
It's great because basically it's about her being progressive and more powerful. It's like it's a little women's Libby at the time.
No, it's good. Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting to see how, because I think a lot of people
dressed at that time, right?
Yeah, well, it's like I get the feeling that a lot of people think that all this progressive stuff is really new.
Yeah,
it is not new.
No.
People have been fighting the fight for a really long fucking time.
Yeah.
It can be quite shocking.
At one point, I'm going to make you guys watch what's the International Hotel with W.C. Fields from 1932. Now that will make
I have not seen this.
Cringe, not cringe, but like be shocked. Listen, there's a scene in that movie where W.C. Fields walks out of his room wearing this big Asian robe, smoking a giant opium pipe, while Cab Calloway is singing The Reefer Man.
Oh yeah! Oh yeah! Holy moly!
1932.
Well, that's pre-code. That's why.
Yeah.
Like pre-code is fucking bananas, dude. Like pre-code is like is raunchier shit than you definitely raunchier stuff than you put on anything today.
Right? And he gets into this car. 33? This woman gets in the car, sits down.
It might be 29,
and she's like, she's shocked that she gets down, and he reaches up under her ass, grabs a cat, and goes, you were sitting on your pussy.
Dude, so ridiculous. Wow. Ridiculous.
1932.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, like anything that's snuck by censors, and I really celebrate. When was it's the Hays Code is what I was talking about. So the Hays Code is from that was 1934.
Oh, I said 33, so I wasn't.
Yep. There you go.
You're not far off, Eric. You were very close.
Yeah, and the Hays Code ran to 1968.
Yeah.
And right after that, it went crazy.
Yeah. And then, well, think about this. The fish gag was in this movie, and this was during code. Okay. Yeah. So let's go back. So we now go to, she now goes to visit his family in Georgia, which to me, this is the scene that was the one that was the hardest for me.
This is clunky for you? I think this is okay. I think
here's the thing. What I don't like about it is that this is the way Hollywood. I always have a problem with the way Hollywood looks at the South.
Yeah. Well,
it's very bad, honestly speaking.
Yeah.
And I think this is part of the reason we are in a situation now is that people from the South were looked upon as clunky and just mocked in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Which they still are.
Which they still are.
So
I have a feeling that this is, listen, of course they're pissed off at Hollywood. Of course they're pissed off at people from the Northeast who have this very just demeaning look at people from the South, which I think was just not correct. Anyway, but let's just get into the story. I don't want to get too much into that whole political thing. But what happens basically is it's a big Southern Georgia family, and you got the Southern Georgia mom who is, basically hates everyone in the family who all just want her money.
There's the evil sister.
There's the evil, cousin or whatever, or wannabe fiance, who basically wants to marry Beauregard for all the money. But obviously, who is this Yankee who's showing up, who is going to take his heart away? And so she's just basically thrust into this awkward family situation. Yeah. At which point they decide that in order to quote unquote test her, she suggests that they go on a fox hunt the next day. And she says, I can't do a fox hunt. I don't have my riding stuff. And besides, I only learned how to do side saddle. And she does this on purpose so that she can try to get out of it. But of course, the other person says, I just happen to have a side saddle and I have all the clothes you need. And so now she's forced to go on a fox hunt.
And for anyone who knows, side saddle is actually incredibly fucking hard to ride. Women were obliged to ride side saddle so they didn't straddle the horse because that's unladylike. Right. And so they ride literally. It is super fucking hard. Yeah, because you're sitting on the side of the horse. It's like it's a side mounted saddle where you keep both legs on one side. Yeah. And it's idiotic way to ride. It's amazing to watch people do it. It takes a lot of skill. But I'm just like, dudes, just get over the fact that women sometimes straddle horses. Just like stop being so weird and let people ride horses.
Yep.
But
so anyway, they go on this very cartoon-like fox hunt, right? Where of course Brady was
shot in Glendale or Burbank.
Yeah, someplace. or basically like.
Actually, I believe that was Korea in terms of MASH.
Yeah, it was Griffith
so
Park
or
something.
Canyon,
Right.
But basically, they go on this fox hunt with crazy, pretty good stunt with her just driving.
Oh, it's pretty great.
Like a lot of hijinks, though.
It's very hijinksy.
The problem with this whole sequence is that they set up the setup is incredibly long.
It is long,
and there's only one real gag.
Yes,
like I'm just like, this is all right if you're doing the intro. If the whole movie is going to be this, and you set up the sister and the relationships with so and so and blah blah blah, then you're setting up like the drawing room comedy that it should be. But they don't pull the trigger on any of that stuff.
Right.
Like it's simply the horse riding gag, and it's just a. It's a lot of sawing to get to the joke. The joke's pretty good, but it's the
joke's okay. The joke's okay, and it is
But it solidifies her relationship. But it took the long way.
The whole point is that at the end, it's just it's supposed to be like, oh right, so we're not. Anyway, so the vet comes by and yells at the sisters. Says, I can't believe you gave her that horse. Okay, the whole gag. Also, by the way, she gives him the most aggressive horse possible that she has to ride. And says, you were trying to I should string you up for murder, or attempted murder or whatever, right? But of course, Beauregard says, I'm so glad you're okay because I want you to be my future wife. And then they're like, okay,
hooray,
so that's
life is great.
Yeah, so therefore, that's when they decide that they're going to get married, right?
Right. And it does have one of my favorite gags is when the boy's like, how'd you stay on? And she all but tells him like, I was sort of fitted to the horn of the saddle.
Well, she says it's the same as the necklace.
Yeah, same as the necklace. It's just like
my rear end.
Are you saying what you seem to be saying? So yeah, it's like I had the fucking saddle horn on my ass, so that's why I hung on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like the entire point of Beauregard is simply so that she can be rich at the end of the movie. Well, it's the only reason he exists. Yeah. So she continues to have, she comes back from the Crash 29, she can still have the house. That's more or less the only usefulness of that character, that entire storyline.
Absolutely. He's very, but also there's two things. One is he keeps going on a 2-year honeymoon. Sorry.
Oh, to separate the boy and her.
To separate the boy and her, so that he, as he's growing up in his formidable years, she's not around.
Right.
Right. So basically, at this point, there's this montage of her traveling around the pyramids and the Eiffel Tower and the Himalayas and all this stuff, and they're doing. It's hilarious because it all looks very like it's shot on the stage with a matte painting behind them, right? And he's obsessed with taking photographs, like I'm taking little pictures. He's obsessed with taking pictures. He loves taking pictures, right? And so she indulges him, but at the same time, it's like we have to go home because I am concerned about what I'm reading in these letters from Patrick. And so they keep going home to check on him, but they come back and forth. But clearly, she's always on vacation with Patrick, right?
Right.
Or with Beauregard. Then they do this very hilarious bit, which is like kind of anticlimactic or like kind of weird, is that they're in the Himalayas and he wants to take a picture of her, and he, in this very cartoon way, ends up falling off the mountain.
Well, like imagine how funny this whole shtick would have been if this were Slim Pickens.
Yeah.
Like Slim Pickens is the guy you want for this dude, and just where if at the end where he's like, just move a little, and it does the whole thing with the camera, and you hear yole-hee-hoo, and then you do the fucking Dr. Strangelove yodel.
Right.
Yeah.
Like then you got a joke. But the guy that got is just a big fucking block of ham.
He's probably cheap.
He's cheap. What are you gonna do? I mean, I feel the same way about the fucking boy, the aged boy. Once, because the boy is about, in retelling the movie, the little boy is about to disappear. Who knows how to work the character, and it's going to be replaced with fucking Roger Smith, who has all the charm of a fucking dish rag. This guy is just this guy's a hack. He's a hack, and he's terrible in the movie, and he makes this character unlikable, even when he's trying to be likable.
Yeah,
he's a typical 50s actor, like B actor male, and he's lousy. Sorry, Roger Smith, but yeah,
we are introduced to him again as the older boy. Like the first shot is he's in a college. The fact that
all these colleges are like
the college boys are wearing these college sweaters and their little weird college hat thing that was just like, very, obviously he goes to a very prestigious Ivy League school of some sort, and it's just funky, right?
Yeah.
And they, lives in a fraternity, and it just feels awkward, which is designed to be, by the way. We've learned this, right? He's becoming preppy, and she's still living her bohemian lifestyle, and they're still they still talk to each other via letters, but they have very different ways of living to each other. Even though he still loves her very much and she loves him very much, what ends up happening at this point is she comes back from after the death scene. We kind of cut to 10 months later. Still ties to, we never go through any real grievance, but we imply that there was 10 months of grieving.
Yeah.
And she's also milking the grievance.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, shouldn't be wearing purple by now.
Shouldn't be wearing purple by now. She's still wearing black, and she's still doing that. And so they're doing that whole thing, right? And she's specifically milking it to her friend Vera, the actress, right? Which is kind of funny as well. But they decide that she needs a distraction from her life, and they are going to get her to. In fact, it was Patrick who gets involved in this. They're going to get her to write her memoirs, right? Story of her life. At which point she's kind of surprised by this, but they get her like a dictaphone, and they get her a secretary. And the secretary is played by this, a lot of the characters are super cartoony and overdone, but this one to me, I just absolutely love. Agnes Goose.
Oh, Gooch. The
Agnes Gooch. Agnes Gooch.
So good. She's very funny.
And she is like, she talks like this.
Right.
And she's like, I do 200 words a minute. She can type everything or and so he's like.
Her physical comedy in the movie is very good. Peter Sellersy.
Oh my God.
And it's hilarious. I wish they gave her more room because she's very, very funny doing that stuff.
I think she won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress.
Yeah, she's pretty funny.
Fucking hilarious.
But there's a point where this gets way on down the road, but she's like, there's a point where she can't get up off a couch that I'm just like, really, you could ride this for another 3 or 4 minutes. Like, this is just hysterically funny, and it's like it's both weirdly cringy and it's sort of like it's
she's supposed to be as homey as it gets, like so homey, it's like insanely, just really. She's got this ratty sweater that's just so oversized for her, and and they the many it's lots of great one-liners between her and Mame as well. It's just very, very funny.
Yeah, agreed.
But then they also introduced this other character who's supposed to be her co-author because she's never written anything. So he's like, I don't want a ghostwriter. And then he turns out to be very charming. He's an Irishman.
Yeah, occasionally
Irish. Like he plays off the Irish. He basically is a moocher is what he is.
Yeah,
really.
Right.
But she lets it happen, lets it slide because she is suddenly interested in him as a person, interested in having him around. She's lonely, but also it's also the first sign that she's starting to get over Bo, right? Leaving.
But what's the line that Gooch has that's really funny when they're talking about the perfect, my puberty in Illinois. What was that? It was a really funny line. It was
puberty. Oh God.
Auntie Mame. Let's see if I get this line. Auntie Mame, puberty in
it's the beginning of her life. Like it's when they're arguing about how
bleak. Yes, how bleak was my puberty?
how bleak was my puberty.
Yeah, my puberty in Buffalo is drab turns into my puberty in Buffalo is bleak, and like they're repeating the line over and over, and then Gooch says it, and you're just like, this is now very weird. Very, very funny.
Yeah. Well, the fact that they're talking about her puberty is also fun.
Yeah, it's just so bizarre.
Buffalo bleak.
Buffalo bleak.
See how that sounds?
My puberty in Buffalo
was bleak.
Yeah, there was a lot of weird, like, what? Considering it's the time period.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I like that it's so shocking for the time period, and it's sort of like, I like that it's trying to do, it's trying to make
break out a little bit from
it's trying to, yeah,
period,
exactly.
yeah.
It's trying to like make the Doctor Strangelove of Doris Day movies, and it comes pretty close to doing it. It comes pretty close to pulling it off.
Right. All right. Okay. So basically now she's basically writing her novel, et cetera, et cetera. But God, there's something that happened.
And the guy who plays the ghostwriter, I feel like they got him for his physicality, because once he shows that he doesn't really need the cane, but he's actually when he's like super horny, suddenly he's jumping all around the place and doing backflips and whatever. And I'm just like, that's when he becomes funny. But he's kind of uncooked bread before then. Like
yes.
I'm just like, it's just like he's almost yeah. He's just sort of like, man, this is like. It's like it could be, Roddy McDowell. It could be Vincent Price when he's young. It could be, there's like a few directions they could have gone, and then they got this guy. And that's like, again, this is
weird. It was like a great actress, and then
B+ character actress.
Yeah. I guess they ran out of money. I don't know.
Yeah. They don't have like especially towards
they've
the back
got
half
some they've got some. The star actress, she's definitely the big star actress. I think
she's terrific.
Agnes Gooch was fantastic.
Yeah, she's great.
The
Friend is
specific.
Great. Yeah,
The Friend is great.
Yeah, there's definitely great stuff galore.
They're great. I'm just saying in terms of known actors.
Yeah.
And it's like one great known actor. So they must have put all the money in the sets, because the sets
are lavish.
They got value out of it though. They kept,
sure. And the redresses are fantastic.
They use that set over and over and over again.
And I gotta say, I've been hitting on the last half.
Some
of
of the stuff was great.
Her costumes in the last half of the film are fan-fucking-tastic.
Yes.
They're super, super good. Her morning outfit is awesome. Her, when she comes out of morning and she's like this black but flash of purple, looks great.
She had her pantsuit thing with her crazy green dress.
Yeah.
She comes running down the stairs.
Uh-huh.
She broke her ankle.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. She fell down, broke her ankle. They had to wait for her to heal to.
That stinks. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, she's got this awesome dress, which like from the back looks like this like almost wraparound ballroom thing, but the front is just cut straight out, and she's got like a pantsuit that's part of the dress, and it's like this sparkly pantsuit that like just it looks like the dress opened up and she's about to take the dress off for a costume change. It's really, really wild. It's great. It's a great look.
Fabulous. Yeah. She looks great. Okay, so she is sort of enthralled with all this craziness that's going on. The Irish guy is like decides that he is completely in love with her and is like practically raping her almost, and she's. But she's
what the fuck are you doing? Stop this.
Brushing it off as, he's just, yeah. And then, of course, at this point,
he's like, so raping my mom, huh?
But then he's basically explaining to her that he met a girl and it was love and etc. And he wants her to meet. She wants to introduce her.
Right.
But he's worried about the household because of all the craziness going on.
This is for me like this is the last great scene with them is on the stairs where after all this sort of slapsticky stuff, and then she's just like he basically says, you embarrass me. That's why I haven't brought her by. And then she's like, maybe I'm embarrassed because you've turned into a fucking conservative
monster.
dickhead.
She said it's like I don't want to show my girlfriend all this stuff. It's like, should I not tell her that I think you've turned into a complete monster?
Yeah, it's and
she really
sells it. And you're like,
she really was like, oh shit.
And then
shit.
It's only seconds later.
He walks away, and she's like, she regrets having told him this because she knows that she's going to lose him.
Right.
And she immediately turns around and says, forget it. I'll renounce, everything. I'll pretend I'm the complete conservative. I will do everything because I love you so much.
Yeah, and it's very touching. It's a very touching little bit.
You believe it, and he's like, really? And he's like, great. Now I can bring her by. Right?
Yeah, great. I'll abuse that.
I'll abuse that. At which point she brings by. Right. And so this is a pinnacle thing, because basically what happened is that they need to go to Mame and the Irish guy need to go to a party, right? And he said she says no, and sets her up with Agnes to go to the party, right? And he goes, I'm not going with Agnes. And then she totally does up Agnes into the little makeover session, which is hilarious. He's like, oh my God, how is Agnes going to show up? And of course, Agnes shows up. Her and Dr. Pepper was cracking me. I don't know what was.
That was very funny.
Dr. Pepper. And I love the lines when she's trying to get her. It's like, oh my God, Agnes, you've got a bust. And she's like squeezing her so she can get the sweater so she can see that she's got actual boobs under there. Yeah. And it's like, she's feeling like abused. It's very funny, right? Yeah. And he's like, what do you call those? Like orthopedic Oxfords.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that sounds good.
It's really funny. And so finally they do this big makeover situation for her. Agnes comes down. She definitely looks let's just say acceptable in some ways.
Yeah, they make her look so like crumpled up and bad to begin with that after they dress her up, like you're just like, okay, she looks like a human. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I love the fact that she's without her glasses and she can't see, and so she's like doing this little blind thing and walking down the staircase in this awkward dress. But then she ends up going with the Irishman out the door. And of course, just as the new girlfriend arrives. Now the girlfriend arrives and she is about as preppy as it gets, blonde thing. She's got a serious case of Long Island lockjaw. If you don't know what that is basically when you talk with your teeth clenched together.
Yeah, it's like she's a fucking snotty, holier than thou, preppy. Jerk and a racist.
And a racist.
To make your acquaintance.
Yeah, she's a repugnant character from the get-go.
And immediately name sounds like, oh.
Like it is, and this is where the movie like struggles a bit, because like you have an actor playing the kid now who, it's like if you had like young Haley Joel Osment turned into Zac Efron maybe, and you're like, I guess. And then he's like, hey, I brought my girlfriend home, and she's Hitler. And you're like, so you fell in love with Hitler, and I'm supposed to like you now? Well, it's just ugly.
I wouldn't say Hitler. I was saying more Eva Braun.
Eva Braun. Like the thing is, like, there's part of the problem is that I'll get back on board with him, except that I can't imagine why he likes her. Like, she's so unlikable, like from the get-go. Well, like there's very little for me to grab, where I'm just like, why would the fuck? Like, what am I supposed to believe is left of you if you like her?
It is true that basically, it's hard to believe that someone who grew up with Mame, under all the values and things that she does, would get to be that shallow.
Right. Like, there has to be, if you're really like, man, this, none of this is to say this is a bad movie. This is a very good movie. But I'm like, the thing that is hard to thread, right, is in growing up with Mame, you also have to sort of set up this idea that he's afraid of change, because it also made him very sad because he lost her for many years, right? Mm-hmm. And they kind of blow it on that because they don't do the Beauregard story very well. Mm-hmm. And so you never really get that feeling of loss and loneliness on little boys. They make it as a joke. Yeah, they make it as a joke. And they do, and so you don't have like the button scene of like him feeling like, I have lost her, things are unstable, and I essentially blame her flightiness that I would grow up and be attracted to someone who's the literal opposite.
I think the thing is that a lot of the characters were just kind of cliche, or
They were all very cliche.
Yeah, you can have it be cliche, but you need to have these little touches that
because then everybody else, when you want to get the seriousness of the main characters, it just they're like floating out in an island.
Yeah,
and that was the problem where it just doesn't.
You never get to reconnect or feel like emotionally reconnected with the little kid, and like where you just go, oh, she's kind of blowing him off, and it really hurts him, and that's why he looks for someone who's extremely conservative and very staid, and he's excusing all the worst traits of this woman because he wants stability.
I think what they try to explain is that basically because she was absent, he was being raised by the other guy, the conservative
right
guy.
Yeah, which is just, I don't know, like that's a little bit of a hard sell
because he was basically set up
right
with this girl from that other guy, the uncle. Right?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. It just doesn't, like, because we're not getting that story from the boy, like right. You don't get the emotional transition with him. Then he never
does this thing where he gets upset at her and saying you weren't around.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. That's exactly the scene it needs. It needs that scene.
It's like you weren't around, so of course I was with.
If they had just that little bit, then as soon as Ava Braun shows up, I'd be like, well, I understand. You know, like, yes.
See what happens when you go away? I fucking marry Hitler.
Exactly. Great. Your girlfriend's Hitler. But yeah, so this is like, to bring up another thing. I've only seen it once, so I don't know if there's anything to this. But like, there's definitely a very strange, larger European World War II theme going on in this movie.
Like, they don't talk about the war, though.
Yeah, they don't talk about the war, but then there's a lot of, like, I don't know how to say it. It's sort of like the way they show America and the rest of the world, and then they come back to deal with the girlfriend's parents, who are really like, and they're like
over the top.
Oh, they are. Yeah, they're painfully over the top. But like the whole idea of it is sort of like,
I mean, listen. At this point, if I'm buying, Agnes Gooch, I'm buying.
Oh yeah, sure. Like too. I think that it's yeah. Like I don't think that they're bad. I think that they come close to wearing the gag out. Like I think that's my problem with them. They're just like they ride the pedal on that one pretty hard. And like I think that's more the comedy of the time has a lot of that stuff. That's why you have like
remind you of people in Connecticut.
Well, yeah, sure, yeah, exactly. But like for me, it's like I've seen enough Ruth Buzzy jokes to fucking last a lifetime, and I never want to see that fucking. It's like, because that's the same. We just praised him in the last podcast, but I'm going to say the Jerry Lewis thread of comedy at this time is just like. Huge. It's like sand in my teeth. Yeah, it's really, really hard to deal with. These guys do it pretty well. And I think that it works largely because Russell is there as like, she hates them, when we see the scenes. And so at least I'm connecting with Russell.
There's a couple of really good things that in that. Okay, so scene where basically she goes to visit the parents, right? Which is a little bit the meet the parents situation, right? And the parents have their house in the it's pretty much a house in Long Island or Connecticut
it's in Connecticut. It's just past Westport.
Connecticut, right?
Where is it supposed to be, Eric?
Just past Westport.
Okay, so it's supposed to be in Connecticut, and they have they're trying to make it look very authentic colonial, and it's what I love about this is it is 1958, and that bullshit that we do now with real estate to try to make things look like what they're not.
Yeah,
still do. Same thing. Like people literally build brand new houses to look like colonial Mediterranean houses. Brand new.
Gross.
Gross. Like, come on. Like this is the problem I have with architecture in the United States. It's like we just can't get over ourselves.
Some of these houses are almost 50 years old.
Is that from LA Story?
Yeah,
it's true. Yeah, like the whole McMansion thing, that the entire, like, that felt very McMansion to me. Like that, like their setup was very funny.
But they also said, like, eating on the patio, and it was like, we don't want to see like a bunch of bohemians or gypsies or something like that because they're having things on the patio, and it was just kind of funny.
Yeah, it's so like that, like the girlfriend's parents are atrocious. And like, I do like, like especially they become so invasive into the space. Like,
well, Yes.
They are basically, there's like a Mame sandwich going on at the end.
Yeah,
and you can
literally.
see it. She's like, what the fuck is going on with these people? Like, this is gross.
Well, she says, and then they're like, you do, we know Mame, and she has ridiculous parties.
Right.
And like at one point in the beginning of the story, for example, there's a gag where like, she's had 13 cocktail parties in the last 2 weeks. And he goes, 13? He goes, yeah, one day the bootlegger wasn't available.
Yeah, exactly.
So, which is kind of funny. But anyway, she makes her cocktail, which is like a daiquiri, which is because there's no sugar in it. And goes, oh, and you can tell how she just disguises it.
Yeah, she's like
the despises
nasty.
It. It's like, oh, how's it so?
I wonder what it could be. Yeah,
what's the secret?
Goes, it's secret ingredient, but you're practically family. It's honey, and he does this in a very creepy way.
So lewd. Like everything is so like he is like that actor is so like he's like.
Well,
this
he's
weird
told to do it. He's
yeah. I'm not picking on the actor. The character.
Yes, you are. And he
like that motherfucker. Yeah, like no, the actor's like he turns it into some like weird sex gag, and you're just like, what the fuck is going on with this guy? He's like, it's hey. You're like, is that a word for something else, bro? What are you talking about? Like, what is happening here? They're just hideous pigs, but both of them are just hideous pigs. And then they start talking about the Jews.
Yeah. Well, no.
It's like they double down pretty quickly.
The important thing is like they talk about everything, and then he says, let's talk about their wedding present, right? And she says, looks at him and goes, how about that? And he points at this empty lot across them, and he goes,
backyard.
How about? He's like, it's up for sale. And we want to buy it, and then we should do that. And he says they could just live right here, and they can put their patio right up to ours. And he goes, "Oh, you wouldn't be so much losing a daughter, but gaining a patio."
Gaining a patio. That's a great line. That's a great line.
Such a good line.
It's not so much losing a daughter, but gaining a patio. It's hysterical.
It's such a good line. Right. And then he's like, yeah, it's like there's some other people are trying to, the Epsteins, and he's like, oh, the cellist, and she's like. No. It's like, it's segregated up to here, but not up to there.
It's restricted.
It's restricted. Yes. Restricted up to here, but not over there. And she's like, huh. And she starts putting it all together, and she goes, and she does a really great things like, you've thought of everything. Thought of their press. And she says, we'll just split it 50-50 in terms of the land. And he goes, you've thought of everything for them. Their wedding, everything, even their gift.
Yeah, you've planned out my son's life. You've planned out blah, blah, blah. And even my
it's all planned out. And then it's like, And so she starts really sort of pondering and things like, how about we come to my house? We'll do a little family gathering.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, uh-oh.
Mame style.
Yeah. Right? And so at this point, we're sort of going around the bend to the end of the movie.
Yep.
But at this point, we see. So she decides she's going to plan a celebrity party, which of course is the big crescendo. How is the conflict between her and Patrick have to come to a resolution, right? So a lot of people, close family members, are going to be showing up to this party. So who's there? But of course, Agnes is there, who is now very pregnant, because we found out after she went to the party with the Irish guy, she came back. She doesn't remember anything, but she thinks she went to a movies where Gary Cooper was in a wedding, and a bunch of things happened. But it turns out that Agnes got pregnant.
Yes, and so which is for the time period completely horrifying that a woman would be
unwed mother situation, right?
Really
so
terrible.
Agnes is walking around pregnant, and of course Mame has taken her in, but because she's pregnant and kind of eccentric, she has a new secretary who's of course very attractive.
Yes, like a comparatively normal person who fits the Ken doll son that she has. And as you can see, like the moment she shows up, you're like, okay, that's where that goes.
Right. That's where we're going to solve the problem.
Strange but true. That guy, who played the son later, by the time he meets that girl, I swear, I'm not kidding, my junior year in high school, my roommate looked exactly like that.
Oh, wow.
Like, oh my God, that's Chris. I was like, holy Christ. he looked like that. Exactly. And he was from Long Island.
Yeah.
Very
Locust Valley.
Sure.
Yeah, that dude. And like it was
Good
just
guy,
like
but I was like, that looks like I mean, to the T. It's really odd.
He's just a classic 50s TV guy. Yeah, exactly. That's the look. And like and then the final scene where the party happens, like he's like stone cold hitting on the secretary even before anything goes wrong.
Yeah.
He's just like, oh, let me help you on that ladder. Climbs up right behind the woman on the ladder and basically presses himself against her. I'm like, that's a little weird, bro. Like, this is some strange choices. Yeah, exactly. His fiance is literally in the same shot.
I'm looking at it like, I don't know, pretty picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, very strange. Okay, so of course now the house has been completely redecorated again for the final scene by a new decorator, Ulu or something like that.
Yeah. Right? It's a Swedish name or something. It's a
Swedish name. Right. So it's supposed to be like uber mid-century, like sort of extreme mid-century, and it's got all this strange mid-century stuff everywhere, and strange sculptures and everything else. Which, to the conservative Long Island or Connecticut parents who like to have all their colonial stuff around is a little bit extreme modern, right? At the time. So anyway, besides the parents and the banker that shows up as well at the thing, and the daughter.
Don't you see the way they constructed all those scenes was like stage?
Oh,
I mean, it was just like everybody had their beat and circled around, and then
I mean it's built as a stage, like it's built basically as a stage. It's like everyone's like there's levels to the to the stage itself, so everyone can be sort of like on different heights and manage all that blocking wise. I mean, like this, I totally agree. Like this, I feel like they either had begun this as a stage play or did like pre-pro thinking that they might do a stage play. And then they're like, no, we can just film this. This can be great. Or we're going to go right into Broadway after this, and we'll just use all of this stuff.
They went right into Broadway. They performed it 650 times.
Yeah, it's insane. But there's no way they didn't know what they were doing. I mean, that is a Broadway stage.
Yeah, absolutely. So after the other people that show up on her side is, of course, Agnes Gooch, who's very pregnant. Her friend, obviously Vera, the actress, her other friend who is a publisher, who is the one who was going to help her get her book published, and of course the maid and the butler, and the teacher, right, and so as they're all trying to figure out, how everything's going on. There's a lot of hijinks that are going on, right? So
it's a hijink-centric scene, yes.
It's a little bit over the top, but quite funny if you've gone through it. And it's, by the way, like I said, this is 2.5 hours. This film, this is a long film.
Yeah,
it is a long-ass film.
It's an epic film. Yeah.
And so as you get to the end, they're trying to sit down on these chairs, which are way too low. Everyone's kind of like having this physical comedy of them collapsing on chairs. She tells them, no, the chairs, they change height. And she has all these
like
ropes,
hydraulics that lift the chairs up, and it's like
lift the chairs up like almost 15
like a car. Yeah, like you're gonna fix your car.
Way too high.
Yeah,
and then the sort of all of the craziness going on, and then the publisher comes by and says, we're going to publish your book. Your book is being published, and she's so excited. And goes, get all your chapters here, and everyone starts reading stories of their lives or their parts in it, right?
From Mame's life that you read.
From Mame's life, right? And Patrick is remembering the time at Christmas when they were really poor, and sort of brings that up again, which was a good thing to bring up because that was a very emotional part for him.
Yeah, it pulls the movie back together a little bit,
and it also helps. Makes him sort of center him, like, oh shit, this is what I'm missing out with this other family who is extraordinarily shallow.
Doesn't it take you out of the reality when you're trying to get those emotional beats and, like
all the hijinks is going on at the same time?
Hold on. What's this?
And all the hijinks is going on at the same time?
No. That you, like, in the part where I lost all my money, I'm poor, I have to go get a job. Meanwhile, she'll come in and she still has the butler and
Yes.
the nanny. It's like, well, who's paying their salary if you're going to work?
Well, they explained that they decided to go without a salary.
Yeah, they're living because they're family now, so they're all helping each other out.
Okay, that's
all right.
That takes you out. That's not as believable as
I mentioned that earlier when we talked about that scene. So
yeah, like I think that there's.
I guess that. Pardon me. That's the problem I had with the film is that I know the setup and it's a good feel good. It just there was a big discrepancy between.
Well, it was just uneven. Like
it was uneven. It was uneven between like following the emotional beats of her and her caring for the boy,
right?
And then this kind of like not real world, or I'm not paying attention to the real world,
right?
And then the people in that world's actions were very like trying to get it compress as much about them and their faults or whatever into just one, like grabbing for he's trying to grab for the candy, the guy that came from the bank.
Right.
It was just like, it was a juxtaposition of like a hijinks kind of goofy comedy play and an emotional story of a woman who takes in a boy.
I think you're right, and that is definitely true. What I think is amazing is how she pulls that off, because
it was all her.
In the same shot, she can go from hijinks to change her facial expression to express a very emotional thing just through her face.
Well, yeah, because like the best I can compare it to in another movie is Chaplin in The Great Dictator.
Yeah,
like
a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's like because like he is. Like the movie is going like from hard slapstick to real poignancy, like back and forth, depending upon what the scene needs. And like the only one who can do it is him. Like there's just nobody else who's even in his league at all. And when you get to the end of The Great Dictator, and he gives that incredibly stirring speech about like the world coming together, like you're just like, how the fuck did we get here from the insanity, like insane silly goofiness that we were seeing just minutes ago, and so she's on the same level, right. But even then, like if you look at Chaplin, like one of my favorite Chaplin movies, nobody likes this one, but like is Monsieur Verdot, and the only thing wrong with that is what's her face playing his love interest that he's going to murder, is she just plays her annoying card too hard. And you can see him sort of struggling to pull the movie. Yeah, it's just like, don't fucking hammer that quite. And like, I really feel like that is just it's like how when you look back at like 90s comedies, you can see like, geez, we really let those actors fucking.
Imagine if it had the bass line from Seinfeld. Doom, boom,
yeah, exactly. It's like, there was,
like if you put that into Auntie Mame.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the power of a great character actor to hold shit together. Like there are very few people like fucking Rosalind Russell. Like she is
I think they spent all the money on her and the sets and just got everybody else
super heroic in this movie. And the movie overall is pretty good, and she is giving this like heroic A+ performance. Like you're just like, holy shit, she is like Superman in this thing. And everyone else is trying to keep up with her. And if they just spent more money on it, like imagine if this were a jacked cast. They had like the tops to top.
But I almost think that they would do each other, try to outdo each other.
Well, yeah, it's a great point, because like what you really need are people like the one who plays the friend, who obviously is like, I know how to work with Rosalind Russell.
No, the guys that she falls in love with.
Right. Yeah,
that would have been the best if they just gave it to somebody who.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. It's like give that to someone who's as good as her acting friend.
Just to be the Southern wealthy
just to
guy.
be then the whole thing is justified.
James Mason to play that writer.
Oh my God, yeah, Mason.
James Mason comes in just
to be the
James Mason
as the writer, and you kind of like
top,
you would fall
smug, sort of like aloof. Oh my God, handsome, believably
too big a star.
Yeah, but someone along
just for that moment. So her world is not real, but real, and you
need someone who has the ability. Like, and I think that like the only trouble with the movie really is that there's only one or two actors in the movie who have the incredible skill that she does.
The older Patrick was a bit problematic, obviously.
Yeah.
But
he's just like a fucking beach blanket bingo guy. Yeah. That's just what it goes.
Which is what he's supposed to become, but he never comes out of it. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, like if you would,
he never really comes out of it, because he does, like, spoiler alert, we're getting to the end. He does eventually dump the girl, and
and he tells her what for, and he does all the right things.
But he's not. I don't buy him as
he's not
the young boy. That he was before.
If you have the scene that you described, where he is honestly sorrowful that she's gone, and then you have you cast him with someone like not actually, but someone like young Paul Newman, before he was famous, where you want to forgive that guy.
Like Robert Redford,
or like young Robert Redford. You just and actually, young Robert Redford is perfect because he was in roles just like this dude, right? Where he's just like the super handsome, instantly likable person, and you see him, you just go like, I don't know what it is about that guy, but I just want to love him. And so all he has to do is go like, I'm so sorry, Mame, and you go like, you're forgiven. It's all good. You're so handsome. Look at you. But yeah, it's they still pull it off. She pulls it off 100%, right. And she's got the gooch with her. So there's a lot to root for in the end. It still plays, still works. The gooch.
He's so funny. Yeah. Anyway, so basically, the family is horrified, right? Mm-hmm. By the situation. There's a great little sort of confrontation between the Gooch and the parents. Mm-hmm. It's like, where is Mr. Gooch? And he goes, oh, my father died years ago. No, I mean your husband. And then she starts crying.
Right. Right.
And it's like, oh crap, she's unwed. She's an unwed mother. And they're like, what's going on here? This is the drama, right? Which is exactly what Mame wants. She wants them to all be horrified mm-hmm. by all this stuff. She brings his high school teacher, or his old teacher, and that he's like, oh god, this is horrifying, right? Find out that she finds out that she get a telegram from the Irish guy saying that because the book is being published, he wants half the money because he wrote half the book, right? And then he goes, I expect that for me and my bride, Agnes.
Right.
And his last name. And they're like, oh my God, I'm married. She realizes she's been married the whole time. She just didn't remember it because she was passed out when she got married, which is also kind of weird and hilarious at the same time. And then also there's a scene where they're all reading the book, and the fiance saying like, well, you can write a book about what happened to me. And they're like, what? And she starts telling the story about how she dropped.
This is one of my favorite bits in the movie, by the way. There's nothing funnier to me than the cringy person you hate can't tell a joke scene, and she's like this long story that's not funny at all, and everyone's like,
she keeps looking back at everybody like, following? Are you following?
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, and that's the punchline, and everyone's like completely confused, and then so she keeps talking to cover, and just like, oh my god, it's fucking.
She basically talks about how she's playing table tennis, and they were in a tournament, and then she like stepped on the ball, and that was just ghastly. And what's funny is that scene is so awkward, and you're like, oh, and they're all just trying to like, what is going on?
Yeah,
as they're talking about these crazy stories from Mame, and she's talking about how she stepped on a ping pong ball, right? So what's funny about it, for me, is that they use that exact line as an intro to a scene in Trading Places.
Stepped on a ping pong ball.
Because when he walks in Trading Places, when he's wearing that crazy outfit that he got from her, and he's trying to get money from his friends from the club, and he walks in and he goes, and she stepped on the ball, is what they say in Trading Places, which is what they stole from Auntie Mame.
That's really funny.
So if you look at a lot of those characters in Trading Places, they were obviously modeled after those characters.
Oh, for sure. Right? Yeah, exactly.
Because the same Buffy, snobby little white Buffy people.
Well, it's like she is like that. The actor who play, I actually think the actress who plays the girlfriend is quite good, and she really, really nails the role. She nails it. Utterly hateable, and watching her like burned alive in a vat of acid of telling this terrible joke or telling this terrible story. You're just like, everyone's like, please release us from this shame. And she's like, no, I'm going to keep talking. Like, it's just incredible. It's just a great gag, great scene. And it reminds me of, there's that great bit in, what do you call it? So I Married an Axe Murderer, when he's out on a date, double date.
The other girl.
The other girl. It's just like you have these two buddies, and you have Mike Myers' girlfriend, super cool. We like her, and Nancy. I can't remember the actor's name. She's
would
really
you
funny.
rather?
And they're all discovering these really funny, disgusting. Would you rather eat this or this thing? And they're hysterically funny. And then it goes the other girlfriend, and she's like, or eat.
No, or get electrocuted.
Oh yeah, and then he got electrocuted, and everyone's like, huh. Yeah. It's like, oh my god. Oh my god.
Yeah,
I've been in so many situations exactly like this where you're just like, oh, we now have to pretend like this is amazing. Yeah, it's perfect.
Well,
so she's great. She's great.
They do that, and then obviously, you can see this obvious flirting with the secretary who's laughing at the whole situation.
Right.
Blah blah blah. Ends in big hijinks. They say we're never going to. Oh, right. The big punchline to the whole thing is that they said, what's happening with the money from the book? Because I'm taking all the money from the book and I'm donating it to the Epsteins.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? And they're like, yes, they're going to buy that property. It's like, you're going to let them live next door to us? It's like, no, they're not living up. They're going to turn it into a place for refugee Jewish children from Europe. And they're just horrified by this. Amazing. And so that's very, very funny. Yeah. And of course, that's the cherry on top of them walking out horrified about what's going on in his family and the wings off. And of course, the banker, Mr. Bobcock or whatever, is just like, oh, I can't believe you did this, man, etc.
And if you think Bobcock is the funniest name in the whole entire thing, the name of the estate of the Texan oil man is Peckerwood.
Yeah.
Which is also very funny. Peckerwood.
All right. And so their name is Upson.
Right? Yes.
And so they called their house the Ups and Downs.
Ups and Downs.
And they think it's very clever. and then he comes into is like, I just thought of this hilarious joke on my way up the elevator to see you. What does an elevator man and our house have in common? They both have their ups and downs.
Yeah, dude, this guy.
Like, and he was like, get it? And I was like, oh, God.
This guy is essentially Rodney Dangerfield's Rupert Pupkin.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh God. Every time he talks, you're like, oh Jesus Christ. And like I said, these guys are doing a bang up job for the type of comedy it is.
Well, they're supposed to be awkward, and
they're actually doing it right. And I don't mean to ride. Like I think that
you're making fun of them. And I think that so they can't defend themselves.
I think that they should be imprisoned. But I mean, outside of that, I think they're doing a good job. They do it correctly. Rosalind Russell's, dealing with it well, and that's the strain. It's all good.
In that final scene, they're doing a good job of making it feel awkward. The fiance is, we really get the elevate of, she is about as dull as dishwater, and she is a horrible, and just her accent is just nerve-wracking, right?
Super entitled, awful person.
The Gooch is hilarious physical comedy, as she's not only playing someone that's very awkward and ridiculous, but also because she's playing up her pregnancy quite a bit and is laying down on the stairs reading the script, which is very funny.
Yeah, that's the stuff I was talking about. That's Peter Sellersy. Like he's just so
funny.
He just rides the joke. Nobody else knows what to do until the joke's over. It's just really, really funny.
He's very, very good at that. The kid Patrick and the other woman are. I'm not buying it, but
no, zero. Like the two of them look like they look like red shirts on Star Trek. Like we're just like, okay, well, we need to fill out the room.
Wife?
Yeah, like they're both. Yeah. They're non-actors that you put costumes on and stick in the back of the shot, and they're bad. They're bad. He's bad. She doesn't have any chemistry with him. And but like, fuck it, who cares? Man's happy. Like everything good is happening the way it should, so it's all fine.
Right. And so of course now you cut forward, there's yet another redecorating of the house. It's now all done in a
budget. It's like,
it's insane. Lord. Yeah. Now it's all done in a very Indian style house. She is obsessed with India. She just goes there all the time. And of course, now we've skipped forward in time, and she has gray hair. Patrick and the woman, her secretary, are married, and they have a kid. And the kid is about the age of what he was when he first met her. Right. Which is, so she now has the young Patrick again that she can start educating. And so there's very much a mirror scene here where she is walking around with him, talking to him about all the wonderful things in India. And he's just
all the beautiful things you'll see in your life, and you won't believe all this. Yeah.
Believe him. And then she's saying, I'm going back to India. And he says, you can come, why don't you come with me? And then he asks her parents, because we can't do that. And then he yells at his parents, his life is a banquet, and most suckers are, basically reflects back that line to his parents. And the parents are just like, all right, fine, you can do it. But you have to be back for school, before Labor Day. Because of course, Labor Day, sometime in November, right? she is completely, she's got this genuine look of like, I have my Patrick back, and I can do all these wonderful things with him. And it's a wonderful, wonderful scene. The new little boy is actually really good too. Like he's very believable as someone who's completely lost his
works.
Great aunt.
That plays great. Yeah. And of course Mame is amazing. So
and so that's her. She gets her Patrick back. The dishwater parents go off, and so she gets to do that, and that's the end of the movie.
And there you go. And it does nice little dissolve out, and the stage you dissolve out at the end. And there you go. And they have a little animated the end. And it's just a really, like, overall it's a really genuine good movie. I agree with its message, and I think like it's a good, like it's amazing that to me that this is a movie about, like, waking yourself up, get out of the fucking conservative bullshit mindset you're in, and really
in 58,
right? Yeah. And it's awesome. So like it's delivering good message. 58
there was a lot of very conservative people.
It's 100% a conservative time, like super conservative, right? And it's trying to shake the 50s out of that, and I really appreciate that. And what I think is really funny, I brought up before, is like this is something that would be shocking today. It's because we are very much in a new 50s.
You think so?
I definitely think so. Like we are
very progressive.
Yeah, we are. Like it's amazing to me how
even progressive people
Democrats
are having a hard time.
Control.
No, that's why the ones who are like I'm not going to even talk about the Republicans. The Republicans they're off the deep end.
Idiots.
Yeah, but people that consider themselves progressive are insanely conservative. Like they're
like warmongers.
Well, they're just like these are socially bullying. Very very conservative. Like trying to control how other people act around them. Like
a lot of censorship.
Yeah, like and especially when I'm on film Twitter, I'm just like I can't believe the fucking debates I'm in on this stuff. Like when people are like actively trying to make things into 50s films, essentially.
Look at the Joker. When they're complaining about the Joker,
exactly.
The Joker is not even that good.
Which, it's just like, it's just a fucking superhero movie. Like, there's nothing even to get mad about.
And you're complaining about it like it's going to...
Don't go see it.
Exactly. I'm just like, how little do you trust people?
They're complaining about how it's going to be like, you don't trust people.
Like, I mean, if you want to get into the dialogue over, like, whether something like the Joker is, like, I buy that it's irresponsible in that, like, they're basically just riffing the king of comedy without really understanding what the king of comedy is.
What it's about, yeah.
Right.
I know.
And so, like, I think that, if you're going to, like I always say, like, go as far as you want to go, man. You make 120 Days of Sodom. You make Clockwork Orange. Like, there's no limit. There's no upper limit on offense to me.
There are movies that get made like that. It's just that they don't get wide distribution, right? Like Under the Skin got made.
Sure, exactly. Which is a really challenging movie. Exactly. It's a really great film.
So those films do get made. It's just that they don't have wide release because...
Right.
What if you try to go around town and just pitch a musical kind of like La La Land, but about Idi Amin?
I would watch that.
You just did that.
It'd be hysterically funny.
It's like,
exactly.
It's called All My Friends. It sounds great. What is it?
Let's have a bite.
Picture this. Idi Amin's in
Idi Amin. Right. Like the horn startup. Yeah, like I think that that's the kind of thing where it's like I think right now, like in that I've been in many, many conversations on Twitter about...
They did do that, by the way. Mm-hmm. They did that. It was called The Producers.
Yeah, exactly. You couldn't make The Producers today, which is a full-on anti-Nazi movie made by people who are Jewish. Like,
but that was Mel Brooks's whole thing. It's like the best way to fight Nazis
is to fucking make fun of what idiots they are. Like, this is like,
and he did it many times. I mean, he did it in what's the To Be or Not to Be too.
Not to have and have not. What's
To Be or Not to Be.
To Be or Not to Be. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, he's like this. Like, Mel Brooks is a stone cold genius and one of the great filmmakers of all time. You know, but that we've come to a place where it's embarrassing to talk about these movies. I'm like, what are you embarrassed about? How anti-racist they are? Like, how anti-Nazi they are?
That's not
like, this is what these things are saying. You know, but the way they're saying it is not. That's not appropriate. Appropriate. Yes, we should appropriately fight the Nazis. Like, we should appropriately fight racism. Yeah, like this. I mean, that's the fucking well, I don't know kind of attitude.
Listen, I'm just going to put it this way: we are in a situation now where we refer to people that are against fascism as the enemy.
Yeah. Weird. Yeah. This is
Antifa is referred to as a terrorist group.
Yeah, this is super weird.
People who are against fascism are referred to as terrorists.
I'm
sorry, my great-grandfather fought the fucking Nazis hardcore. Your father,
yes.
right? And they are Antifa.
Yeah, that's the real
deal.
Would
be considered. That's ridiculous that we're at that situation.
I mean, like, I think that this, like, there's no better. It's just like when I think about, I think about the American Nazi Party, in the same way that I think of it from the Blues Brothers.
Yes,
I'm just you guys are fucking morons. America is famous for a few things, but in the top 5 is handing the Nazis their ass. Like, that is definitely one of the high watermarks of, like, American go. And you guys think it's pro-America to be Nazi? This is weird. Like, that's very strange. But the thing is, I mean, like, that kind of isolation and arch idiot bubble is only one of many that I see on Twitter all the time, film Twitter especially, where people are talking about these things and trying to control other people's feelings about art so thoroughly so that they feel safe. I'm just like, as Eric said, like, just don't fucking watch the movie, dude. Like, what's your problem? You don't have to shame other people into not watching the movie for you. Like, well, I don't understand what kind of control does this give you? You know? And so, like, when it's seeing something like Auntie Mame, I'm just like, oh man, what I wouldn't give for a fucking Rosalind Russell performance in a major motion picture, something that really, really shook people up would be wonderful. And I just don't think anything like that is coming soon, because, like, we got plenty of superhero movies to go. We got lots of that shit to go first, you know, and that's just the way things are right now. So you just have to ride it out. But the good thing is, and we always talk about it, is that as locked down and cramped up as things are, that just means it's going to explode at some point in a positive, artistic way.
I hope so.
Like, that's what happens. It happens cyclically.
I can't wait for it to happen. It's been long time coming for the last 20 years.
Yes. Yeah. It's a long because the thing is, like, I remember there's a fucking that
have been raised. There are 20-year-olds that don't know anything different than what this is now.
Oh,
and they don't understand.
They
didn't understand it. It can happen, right? We're raised into this for 20. We have not made any ideological or artistic progress in 20 years.
It's been pretty slow.
So people that are 20-year-old now don't know anything different. Even 30-year-olds don't know anything different. Right. And they don't know that things can change. Like, I always bring it up all the time. Think about how different the world happened between the 1950s to the 1990s, right? I mean, I'm talking like right there, that's like 40 years, right? Mm-hmm. That happened. In 40 years, how many different genres and music and ideas and
insane
things that they had like massive cultural and artistic changes that happened between those 40 years. It's radical.
Yeah. Like, just think about the difference between the 60s and the 70s.
And between now and the 80s, or you know, there hasn't been much. In fact, all we keep doing is fucking trying to redo the 80s.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think there's just too many choices now?
No. No choices.
I think that people like there's a zillion choices that are all the same choice.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
And I think that people are very. It's like I watched some of Tim Burton's show Wednesday, the new Addams Family show, and it's
the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm just like, it's cute, it's kind of funny, like it's not bad. I'm not about to ride Wednesday and saying it's bad, but I was just like, it's interesting that they took something that was quite cutting edge. When the comic was out, the comics from the 40s and 50s
40s and 50s, yeah,
right,
Charles Addams.
And the comic is actually very daring and very strange, right? And they took this incredibly sharp, witty, brilliant, like savagely funny, bitter comic that is hysterical, and they turned it into another Netflix show that's interchangeable. I was like, why did you take something so wild and make it so milquetoast? Like, it's radical.
We just told you why.
Yeah,
because they can't do it because people would cancel it.
Well, this is the thing, because I mean, like, what makes the Addams Family funny in the first place? First of all, in the original comic, they weren't even a strip; it was just a single panel. It's like the good Family Circus. It's like Gomez and Morticia are like, they are. First of all, they're fucking all the time. Like, they love each other and they're deeply romantically in love, even though they've been married for many, many, many years. And they're every time you see them, they're just like, darling, all this stuff. Like, that's like, they love each other. They love their kids. And they're all evil and they're all murderers, but it doesn't make any difference. Like, they're profoundly in love. And then you have Wednesday, and Wednesday, what makes Wednesday funny is that she is an absolutely mindless sociopath. Like, she doesn't change at all. She's like the Terminator. Like, she has not one drop of human emotion at all. And that's what's funny. And in the show, they've made her parents are boring and sad, and they don't know how to, and the marriage troubles, and they don't know what to do with Wednesday. And Wednesday's sort of likable, but she just wants to be, I'm just like, what the ugh, what is this? I've seen this show on Netflix 100 fucking times.
Like, you just so strange about that. I finished because my daughter watches it. I watched the first season, the whole thing.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was Christina Ricci.
Oh yeah, there's the
I was like, my God, did she get great plastic surgery? I mean, I didn't recognize her at all. And I love Christina Ricci.
Yeah, Christina Ricci was very, very good as Wednesday Addams, but in the movies, like, but the only thing the movies got right really was Gomez. Like, Raul Julia as Gomez is like full on 100% perfect, and then the movies are okay.
Man, but talk about somebody who left us early.
Oh, I know, that poor guy. He was so good. Kiss of the Spider Woman and like all that stuff. It's just fucking amazing. That actor.
So
he died like a couple of years after.
Yeah, it's really
too stroke,
right? Wonderful actor.
Apparently, he had a stroke and he wasn't doing too well. But when he was. When he was walking outside, I can't think he was in Boston, I think, Massachusetts, someplace. But he, like, the one thing at the end of his life that really he loved was when kids would recognize him as Gomez.
Oh, it's one of the great comic performances ever. He is just through the roof funny in that thing. And so when you see the Netflix thing, I'm just like, this is one of the most popular shows on Netflix. And I'm just like, it's fine, but this is no different than you just name it any other show.
We can't offend people. Listen, I'm going to tell you, See, this, I'm actually worried about telling this joke for this very reason. Okay, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Spicy.
Okay? So you see this? These are pheasant feathers, right? Yep. I can sort of see this, right? These are just big, long pheasant feathers that my friend Al gave me when I was at a fly fishing event, because he says I don't use pheasant feathers for my flies, so if you want, you can have them. And I was holding them in my hand like this, and then I was walking around with them, and I didn't know where to put them because I couldn't put them in a bag. So I jokingly said I was going to put him in my hat, right?
Oh, like yeah. We see where this is going.
And my friend was like, "Oh shit! If you do that, you might as well go in blackface, right?" It was like that bad. I was like joking that I was putting my hands like, "Dude, don't do that."
Like, even joking about the joke is dangerous. Yeah, that's the that's the thing. That is the thing. And the thing is, like, I'm not saying yes to the joke. I'm not saying yes to the joke.
I'm not saying that but as like, you cannot.
Well, this is the thing. It's like, whether or not, like, I'm not gonna step out and defend any particular joke, but the idea that people would react to things as if they're dangerous, like, oh my god, I might be ostracized. Like, that's, no matter what the fuck the joke is, like, that's a bad reaction. Like, I have to silence myself is a bad frame of mind. Like everyone's everyone's fucked up and told a clunker, or was insensitive, or said something stupid, or or like, every if anybody on the face of the earth says that they haven't done something that they felt shame for, even some real shameful things, like, they're lying. Like, you should have absolute empathy for someone's, like, I fucked up, I said something stupid.
Everyone's life became like their Facebook page. They just want it to be perfect.
And yes, and this is like
everything's for presentation, and it's not.
And once you we talk about it all the time, but it's just like, once you, and this is what Blonde is about, is like, once you create that false face, that, like, you're only burying yourself under the responsibility of that lie all the time, right? And makes you very, very angry and particular about other people's lies. Like, you better toe the same line that I'm towing, because I am fucking working hard to support my lie. Like, that's bad news. Like, you should trust that people are good and mean well. You know?
Chris.
It's an intervention, Chris. That's all I'm saying.
We're not trying to make a big deal, but we're just like...
Pardon me.
Honestly.
The sandwich got to me. But yeah, like, that's the, like, it's amazing to me.
It was the size of like a
fucking
dog.
Incredible. It was so good, dude. That's like my head. It was like this big. But like, yeah, this is the thing. It's like I've had to, in order to make my argument for Blonde, because I don't want to, like, fight with people on Martini Giant's Twitter. Like, I'm never rude, and I don't attack people or anything like that. But with Blonde, like, by saying it's good, like, by saying I like it, like, instantly
That's
invites
ridiculous.
Like really harsh attacks, like, instantly, and then I have to just talk people through what I'm saying, and slowly they're like, okay, well, I guess I see what you're saying, but you can see they're
that doesn't work.
They're afraid of me.
Because you know what it means. It means that they have to make a point in more than 140 characters.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that I think the reaction
That's really smart.
the reaction is that I'm in a public forum, and here's a guy who says, like, for all intents and purposes, it's like, if I say I like Blonde, or I think Blonde's a masterpiece, like, people on film Twitter react to that. Everyone goes, oh my God, how could, like, he just said that he's pro-sexist and pro-violence against women. Like, it's as if I announced this, which, just, spoiler alert, I'm not. Like,
that's the point of the film.
Everyone, exactly, like, the point of the film agrees with you very, very much, I promise you. But just saying it makes everybody instantly retreat and have to attack, so that they are not associated with anything that I'm saying instantly. And then to agree with me at all is very, very dangerous. And, like, I'm agreeing with them. Like, this is what blows my mind. I'm like, I'm saying something, and the movie is saying something that you and I both agree with, but you're so afraid of being slathered with the Twitter brush that you would rather throw me under the bus and attack me than find out what the fuck I'm talking about. Like, that's bad news. Like, and this is no age group thing. This is like 100% like 60-year-old dudes arguing this, whatever you want to say it, but this is the climate of fear is extreme regarding even the simplest art, and just like, oh, I don't know if that's appropriate. Oh, I don't know. Just like, holy shit, man. Like, gotta have a little elasticity here.
I think you got to,
otherwise you have no progress. It is what it is.
It's starting to rob you of.
It's no fun. I mean, like, it is fun. The people I interact with that I know are really fun, and like, there's lots of good gags. So like, I'm not complaining wholesale, but the stuff that I have to read through is like, it's very bleak, because people would rather define themselves through. It's like the general example I give of this is towards the end of the year, you see nonstop overrated lists, and I'm like, overrated lists are the most. It would be embarrassing for me to publish an
overrated thing.
Like that is, it's such an ugly thing to me to say, oh, that's overrated. That's on the overrated list. Like, what the fuck are you to say about somebody else's feelings about something? You can say that you don't like something. That's okay. But to invalidate somebody else's feelings just because it pushes you up a notch is fucking gross. Just live with the fact that somebody has a different opinion than you. It's okay. Like, you don't have to fucking insult them. You can just like go, oh, I don't like that movie, but I hear where you're coming from. Like, that's an interesting conversation. But saying, oh, you're stupid, or you like blonde, never talk to me again. Like, that's a weird way to go about talking to anybody. Yeah, if you're talking about movies, you should be talking about something you love, and everyone can share on that stuff.
Well, I think that's something we do, right? We don't talk about things that are bad in movies. I mean, we don't talk about overrated films. Yeah. We talk about things like Auntie Mame.
We honestly talk about movies we don't like, but I never say like you're wrong to like something, or like I never say that like. No, I'm never like. I feel like you guys are very patient with me over Titanic. Like, it's perfectly
absolutely,
reasonable.
And I don't necessarily hold it against you.
Yeah, exactly. God, I may be crazy, but it's not like, like that doesn't interrupt the friendship, But it's like McMunkman said, or why they have to fight loan forgiveness. I suffered so you have to. Like, there's a lot of that fucking nonsense. Like, just relax. Like, trust in other people, care for other people. They don't have to go through the suffering you went through just to prove that your suffering was valid or whatever the fuck the bullshit was. Like just be kind and be free. It's so much easier than fucking putting up all this nonsense. But that's where we're at. And so it reflects in our choices for entertainment being very, very bland. Makes sense. Because our interpersonal relationships are very ugly, and so when we watch art as a panacea, and we don't want our art to be upsetting when just fucking talking to somebody online is dangerous. Like, that's hard.
By the way, the reason they have problems with loan forgiveness is not because that I had to pay them and you should have to pay them too. The reason the conservatives are angry about loan forgiveness is because it's going to get more young people to vote for Democrats. That's what it comes down to, right? A
little bit of that, right?
Literally, it's about the votes that they're going to get.
Well, that's certainly that's certainly what the people that want that like the people that are up for office want say that. I have talked to people that are just like hey, it's called being an adult and stuff like this. So, yeah, like, being an adult is owing hundreds of thousands of dollars for decades of your life for 4 years of a school 25 years ago.
In fact, why are schools now $50,000 to $75,000 a year?
Yeah. That's fucking ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Right. It's insane and stupid. It's
embarrassing that
no one else in the world is paying that kind of money for education.
Absolutely,
everyone's getting fantastic. Trust me, everyone's getting really great education, and mostly it's free in almost every other
countries.
Yeah, right. So it's bullshit.
Especially in that bullshit. We know, like, if you just look at statistics, we know the one thing that boosts the GDP of a country is having it be educated. Like, holy shit, you want to up if you want to up the value of your country and have everybody make a lot more money and be happy, put them in school.
But if they're educated, it turns out that very educated people don't vote Republican.
Yeah, well, this is another problem.
Right?
Yeah, this is how it goes.
Don't want them to be educated.
Yeah, it
turns out that the uneducated, especially uneducated white people, vote Republican.
Yep. Yeah, because they end up in shit jobs, and then the people that they vote to goes, see, you're suffering because of these other people. No, they're suffering because of the fucking shitty guidance you've been offering as a leader.
All right. Well, let's not get too much into that. There is we have to figure out. I think we've got enough in the bag that next week we can do a watch party, which would be fun. So I do want to say that if you guys want to do a watch party next week, we'd love to have one. And of course, if you guys are subscribers, go into the subscriber only section of our Discord and go ahead and make suggestions of watch parties that you would like to have. And if you'd like to, think about, we can make this happen. So that would be great to have that. We haven't done a watch party in a while, so it'd be really cool.
Yeah, no, they're always fun.
The last watch party we did.
I don't remember.
It was the last watch party.
It was a while ago.
Which was a while ago. I
hope we get someone as good. The Chuck Norris one was my favorite one in a while. That was a really good one.
Oh,
Breaker was pretty great.
Yeah,
Chuck Norris was great.
Yeah,
I love that van.
So good. Like, I love movies that halfway through they're like, trucks are really popular. We should probably re-edit this.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was funny because it was like, it almost is exactly that. It's like we made a different movie about hillbillies, right? What was the one that was it Every Which Way But Loose? No. It was a lot like the movie not Bill Murray. Who's the other guy from Ghostbusters? I'm blanking.
Harold Ramis.
No.
Dan Aykroyd.
Dan Aykroyd did a movie where it was like the judge in a New Jersey town.
Oh, Nothing But Trouble.
Nothing But Trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Didn't Breaker have a lot of Nothing But Trouble feels to it?
Totally did. Right? Another weird movie.
And so they had that Nothing But Trouble feel to it, and then they're like, but let's throw in trucks out of nowhere.
That
had nothing to do with it, and then we'll make it all about trucks. We'll call it Breaker. Even though it really has nothing to do with it.
It's a masterpiece, man, because it's clearly just going to be a Chuck Norris kung fu movie set in like a Western town. And then halfway through they're filming and they're like, wow, Smokey and the Bandit did some hot business. So let's cut in lots of footage of trucks and then we'll just get a bunch of semis to plow through these shitty sets.
I swear, there's sometimes I watch movies and I'm immediately like, somebody produced this because their brother died and left them 55 old checker cabs. And so we just, instead of destroying them, if he destroys it through production, he'll get a write-off, it's just like this is how the genesis of the movie came about.
Yeah. How can we do this?
I have a great story to tell. Yeah. No, I got to get rid of 55 old checkered cabs.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like there's loads of good movies on Prime. Check them out. Make sure that the actual Prime, not the subscription Showtime Prime, just the Prime ones.
Yeah,
but just looking at it, we could do, for instance, we have Jurassic World. The latest Jurassic World is on Prime. I would happily make fun of that for 2 hours.
Really?
Yeah. I haven't seen it.
Yeah. Dominion?
Oh,
Dominion?
The last one that was tall for me was Tia Carrere was in it.
Tia Carrere was in it.
But also, Jason did say that he has. There's been several suggestions already on there, so we should go back and revisit them. We should revisit them. You're absolutely right, and also noted that things come and go on Prime really quickly. We found out, so double check to see if they're still on Prime before we make any suggestions.
Yes,
so,
yeah. But as we come up in the day,
I have noticed it is the cycle of. I forget what movie I was watching recently, and I was like, I'll finish it tomorrow. It was gone.
Yeah, it happens all the time. All the time.
I was like,
it spins fast, that lazy Susan.
And there was one thing what was the movie we were trying to do what was the 1999 movie about the 2000?
Strange Days. Yeah, Strange Days.
Trying to do Strange Days. It was completely
available
gone.
Nowhere at all.
And then suddenly it's on HBO now.
And it's on HBO now. Yeah. If you want to like, I stand by Strange Days. It's a weird, sort of clunky movie, but if you want like, it's like if you want to see like,
who's the star in that?
It's Ralph Fiennes. And Angela Bassett's in it. And she's fucking great. She's really great. And it's a Catherine Bigelow movie, and so the action's pretty good. It's a little bit lumpy and weird plot wise, but if you want like weird underground cyberpunk movie, that's top notch.
All right, I'm gonna wrap it up because I got a couple things to do here. A lot of things I got to cover in the last moments.
Johnny Mnemonic, we should see.
They're actually putting that on DVD in black and white. Apparently, if you watch it in black and white, which I've always argued for, it's a much better film.
Yeah, because Robert Longo did everything in black and white, right?
That's right. Dude. Robert Longo was the director of that.
Dude, like I'm because there are movies that I legitimately like way better in black and white.
I don't want that.
Dude, because I've told you I've watched Lynch's Dune many times in black and white, and it's twice as good. It's an actually really, really great film in black and white. It fits completely. Yeah. So
I'm all for black and white. You've been seeing my last TikTok's been all in black.
That's right. It's very artsy. I like it.
Very good TikTok, by the way.
That was a good one. That was a fun one.
That was fun.
Yeah,
that was a lot of fun. If you haven't followed, go follow us on TikTok. We're at Martini Giant there. Done several little.
Yep, we're on our YouTube page. We also put them up there.
We put them up on there as well, which is youtube.com/@Martini Giant. You have to use the @ and then okay. I am going to wrap this up. Thanks so much for indulging me in Auntie Mame. I've kind of wanted to do this for a little bit. It's funny that you guys haven't seen it.
Live.
Live. So there you go.
All right, great.
Live. All right, you guys ready?
Yep.
Yes.
Good.
Drink.
Talk.
Drink.